I think so. That might be my old channel.
Oh boy.
I'm just kidding. I actually connected this morning, you dumb
Okay.
bitch. So,
I didn't.
sorry, we're
You said
live.
oh
Hold on,
boy,
we're,
you motherfucker.
hold on, we're live. We're live. Hold on.
Dude, it's Maz insulting me today. This is dumb bitch. Oh wait, can't cuss. First 10, 30 seconds. Can't do this. Wait. Be nice. Be
That's
nice.
okay. I don't think it's actually. No, it is live streaming. Never mind.
Yeah, be nice, monkeys.
Whoa! Wow. That's
Yeah, y'all say dance, monkey. We're all Latinos here. Shut up.
All right, hold on. Let me check sound real quick. Let's see.
I didn't know there was a G Fuel Crash Bandicoot flavor. What's this called? Be nice. Be
That's
nice.
okay. I don't think it's
Oh,
actually.
that's cool.
No, it is live streaming. Never mind.
Yeah, be nice, monkeys.
Well, that was kind of racist.
Whoa! Wow.
Shut up. Yeah, y'all say dance, monkey. We're all Latinos here. Shut up. Ain't no race.
All right,
We all
let me check
Latinos.
sound real quick.
Y'all tell me to dance, monkey dance. I didn't know there was a G Fuel Crash Band.
Yeah, okay.
So it's playing. So.
Let me
like
give 5 seconds of silence so I can actually see this, hear the sound here. Hold on.
What sound?
Just shush.
Latinos here. Shut up. Ain't no race.
All right,
We all
let me check
Latinos.
sound real quick.
Y'all tell me to dance, monkey dance. I didn't know there was a G Fuel Crash.
Shut
We're all
Whoa!
nice. Be
That's
nice.
okay. I don't think it's
Oh, that's
actually.
cool.
No, it is live.
So it's playing. So.
Let me
like a
give 5 seconds. All right, I think we're good. I think we're all set. The nobody in the comments section, let me know if you can hear us. Hold on.
You just say the nobody who's in the comment section.
Yeah, the nobody in the comment section. Please let us know what's going on.
Damn, man. Well, you roasting everyone, even our audience. Well.
There's
No,
no.
pretty sure he's just roasting us.
All right, we are good. What's that?
Good for you.
Yeah, I'm happy, and I'm just gonna down these noodles
Mm.
and enjoy the Thai curry red noodles. So good.
And leftovers?
Oh, absolutely. I was gonna make myself some eggs. Maybe go to Dunkin' Donuts, get myself a nice little coffee or something, just enjoy my Saturday morning. But then I realized it was 10:20, and I was like, well, I got no time to make any of that.
Yeah.
I was too busy playing Lost Judgment, man. Let me actually tweet this out.
Man, those bullies got you distracted. Lee.
PS4. Tag Herman, tag Corey.
Tag all of them, man. Tag Neil, tag Jade.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm sure they're up bright and early at 7 a.m. right now for them.
Oh, yeah.
So sad.
Okay, that's good there. Tweet it out. Oh, that's why I don't have this on here.
Boys, we're 1 month away from Like a Dragon Ishin. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, man.
Can't believe it's real. Like, they actually brought it.
You know what's even crazier?
No.
Our podcast turns 2 next month.
Whoa.
Jeez.
God. Sheesh.
Yep. 2 years, man. We even got nothing planned for celebration, by the way. Just say. The only thing.
You want to go to Cancun or something?
No, the only celebration we have is to keep doing these Last of Us episode breakdowns.
That's true. That's a good celebration. We're celebrating with Last of Us.
True.
The game that everyone except some played when it came out.
Did any of you try the Last of Us Part 1 trial?
The trial, no. The game. I mean, I have the actual game.
I mean, the game looks gorgeous, right?
Yeah.
I'm like bewildered at how beautiful it looks on the OLED screen and all the new graphics and everything. The facial animations are freaking insane.
It's like an actual like cinematic remake. I'd say the game at its core it's the same, but um, it's beautiful.
Yeah, but all the little details really do make a difference. Like it's kind of nuts. Like all of Tessa's eyebrows that furrows during certain cutscenes, or the little gesture she makes with her face when she's just being a badass. Like it's so cool.
Absolutely. And so just so y'all know, and so 11:30 is my call off time today, but I'm able to be until then. So you know.
Let's get started then.
Yes, sir.
What episode are we on? Really quick.
87? 8? 87? I'm looking at the videos right now. Anyways, welcome to this episode, y'all.
Wait, let me check. I think 88. Yeah, 88.
Yep.
Guys, welcome to the DualShock Sense podcast, episode 88. I'm your host, Soul, the connoisseur of anime waifus, joined by my two co-hosts. We have Walt here. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantabulous. Lots of games to play, lots of shows to watch, and lots of smoke to be had because some people just roast and don't do anything else and eat noodles. But yeah, we're doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. We also got Macho here. How you doing, man?
I'm good.
Oh man.
Sorry. I was
God,
Whoa,
swallow
whoa.
first, bro.
Whoa, that sounds like a mouthful mode right there.
Yeah, man.
That was a
It's
mouthful
early
of
right
it's
now.
a mouthful of noodles. I'll tell you right now. What's up, everybody? It's the King of Kingdom Hearts and the Final Fantasy fanatic. I'm overwhelmed, indecisive, and I'm ready to get this podcast started. It's probably going to be the most sure thing I do all day today. So, what's going on, everybody?
Yeah, so bit of a different show from our usual stuff. This is going to be our finale to our God of War Ragnarok spoilercast now that everyone has finished the game. So yeah. Also, wait, we don't have any God of War gameplay to put in the background. Why do we have Pokemon?
It's the playlist, man. God of War eventually be there.
All right.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, so out of base. I can't be perfect. I apologize.
It's just weird, man. But okay. So yeah, we are going to talk about we left off. Jesus Christ, we left off at like Vanaheim, I think. The first time you get to Vanaheim.
Yep.
So yeah, we're gonna talk from that point, really to the end of the game. So without further ado, let's just jump into it because we got a lot to cover. So yeah, I mean, starting from Vanaheim, Jesus. So I mean, this comes off the heels of the Vanadis boss fight, which we of course find out that was Freya the entire time, which was a really cool reveal. We kind of get into like a uneasy alliance with her where she hasn't exactly forgiven us, but she needs our help in order to break Odin's curse on her that has sort of like regulated her to Midgard and Midgard only. She can't really travel to any other realms without being in her like falcon form. So that's really the quest, to head into Vanaheim and help her with that. Along the way, we are paired up with Brock to do this, which is really fun. It's a really weird, like, I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but it's like a really weird pairing where it's like Kratos, Brock, and Freya the entire time. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is kind of like the first time that we stumble into Freyr's camp. We kind of get a good sense of the whole sort of like the Vanir's sort of like resistance, I guess you could call them, but like it's barely a resistance because there's not like many of them against Odin's forces. Obviously we get to meet Freyr for the first time, who is Freya's brother. And then from there we head over to Freya's, I believe, like her it's like something like her garden or something like that. Her like people's garden or something.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like I'd say it's like also like ritual ground or like very
right,
traditional area, like ancient sacred area.
right. So yeah, something along those lines. Yeah, I think ritual was like in the name or whatever.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so obviously along the way, both Freya and Kratos start hashing things out a little bit more. I think get to know each other at a more intimate level, not like like a relationship kind of way, but just like really getting to like dig deep into both of their sort of just like what makes them tick, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I mean, for instance, like I really love the fact that like Kratos is like so like awkward in these situations because like this is something that he doesn't really do, like trying to like give other people advice. And like, to Freya's credit, I mean, she's absolutely right. Like Kratos is like trying to give her advice about a situation that he has like absolutely no knowledge about, and that's pertaining to the whole Freyr situation. And he's bringing up his brother and things like that. And yeah, that's when she says that like you're trying to like give me advice on something that you have no like information on. So like please like just stop. And that's when Kratos like just stops talking.
Yeah,
Um,
and I love that in that same vein when he gives her advice based on Balder and the pain that she's feeling, because as he notices that he can't really talk to her about the more current aspects, he kind of like just tries to, I don't know if like console, but more of like give some sort of like reassurance of how the pain will be like, and that's when she's like, oh, what do you know about losing a child? And that's when you really start to see how Kratos is willing to be more vulnerable and talk about his actual past, not Atreus. And she's like, wait, there was someone else before Atreus? I did not expect this entire sequence. Like, I didn't expect this game to throw the name Calliope. I didn't expect that to even be a conversation. So that was really cool.
Same, yeah.
yeah.
That's where it got real for me, and I was like, "Oh my god, we're going places with these characters that I did not expect." I'm all here for it.
Going back there, yeah.
Yeah, really, really cool moment. So essentially we reach the grounds. Also, this happens like at some point during this whole trek to the ritual grounds or whatever. But Freya, like I think you kind of get a sense of just like her obsession with like really trying to get back at Odin, and like understandably so.
Yeah.
But it you almost kind of get a sense also of like she's like starting like she's using Kratos as like something to like point her like rage and like anger towards, or like almost like she has like a dog on a leash, and she gets to like unhook the leash and then just like let the dog like just go wild in like whichever direction that she chooses. And I like that Kratos kind of like fights back on that, and like reminds her that he will be no one's monster like ever again. And like kind of like snaps at her a little bit. So I really, really like that line as well.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we reach the ritual grounds, and it is there where we find out that Odin had a contingency plan in place, where he basically had Nithog protecting the sort of curse that he cast on Freya. And again, it also just shows you like how just messed up and petty this man is, because like he really put this curse like in a place that is like culturally significant to Freya, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, I just found that really, really messed up. Um like literally the thing that is causing her like so much pain and is like preventing her freedom, really, is like it's found in a place that is just so like significant to her and her people. So like I don't know, I think that did a really good job of showing just how petty this goddamn Odin is.
Yeah,
um
just how willing he is to like he doesn't have any pride. He thinks he's like above everything, but also the way that he goes about it, it's not very you know honorable or whatever word you want to use. He's very slimy and very like he doesn't care who he disrespects and who he doesn't. Because I mean, look at we're in the sacred grounds of Freya. He doesn't care. And you get to find out more about how he behaved in this entire sequence.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, there was then we move into the Nithog fight, which was I thought it was a really, really cool fight. What did you guys think about it?
What do you think, Macho?
I loved it. Yeah, I mean, any sort of I was waiting for kind of that big epic, kind of climactic to it, like a special area sort of fight, especially when it comes to any sort of Norse not animals, but like Norse monsters stuff like that. So to see like Nidhogg here was like really cool. Plus, it was a nice little callback for me with Final Fantasy 14, since one of the biggest, it's one of like the main dragons in that game is Nidhogg. So it's cool to kind of see a lot of the influence from other games from Norse mythology in there, and to see kind of like Santa Monica's own version of this. I thought it was really freaking dope. I thought they had like a badass design, and I like this dragon more than dragon. I like this fight more than the dragon fight in God of War 2018. So that's just what I took from it, honestly. Thought it was
Yeah, I
awesome.
really enjoy how they actually team up for it, and no one's happy about it. Like they're not happy that they have to fight this because Nithog is essentially like a guardian of the tree, right, of the sacred tree. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but Odin, again, he doesn't care. He's gonna use every tool at his disposal to get what he wants. So this is the guardian at this point, and he knows. I mean, if Odin is an all-seeing whatever the hell, and he saw this unfold in this fight, like I would be worried because it's such a ancient creature. But who? He's a piece of shit.
I think that's a good point. Is that like Nithog is just like literally just doing her job, like is to tend to the roots of the Yggdrasil. So like it I felt bad, but like also like this was something that Freya needed to do because obviously Nithog was in the way. Um, but yeah, I did definitely feel bad about just killing it, you know. But
Yeah.
I feel like that's a common occurrence with this game specifically. Is like sometimes killing things that you don't want to kill. But yeah, so
It's such a stark difference from God of War 3, where God of War 3, you want to kill these gods, but here it's like, I don't even want to kill this creature. But you have to, you know? It's kind of the thing where you went from killing things that you shouldn't have to having to kill things that you don't want to kill. And I think it's a nice a conflict of interest for Kratos and Freya.
yeah. So yeah, we end up cutting off Nithog's head. Also, really quickly, the scene, the moment where like Nithog has Kratos like pinned up against like a wall or something, and Freya like flies through its mouth to go to reach the roots. And then she turns back into like her mortal form, and then like you see her like sprinting, like all the way back to where Kratos is at, jumps and then like plunges her sword like into like the roof of the or like the top of its like mouth or whatever. Like such a cool scene. I really really love that moment. Um, so yeah, after the fight, we go back to Kratos. Sorry, we go back to Freya. She's breaking the rest of the roots off. She successfully does so. Her sort of tattoos start to glow. She turns back to Kratos, and I think this was like one of my favorite scenes about her just talking about like she doesn't know if she's supposed to forgive him or kill him. And she kind of settles on she doesn't think that she can do both. Um, and that she still harbors like some anger for him, which I think maybe subsides towards the end of the game, but definitely in this moment was still like a little shaky. Like she didn't completely forgive him, but she recognized that like at this current moment he's not the one that needs to die. Um, and then just like in my opinion, just like one of the best written lines in the entire game is when Kratos says, Walt, you may remember this better than I do, but something along the lines of like I do not regret saving your life, but the choice like to either live or die should have been yours to make. I shouldn't have robbed you of that choice.
Yeah,
Um,
perfect. Yeah, that's exactly as exact. And I was expecting, honestly, from the beginning, as they were talking all the way to the boss, in my mind, I was like, Kratos, it's not the fact that you killed her son. It's the fact that you took. She asked you something, you know. And I started to think about like things like euthanasia and all these things where people have a right to choose what they do with their lives. And in this case, he robbed her of this. And I love how he uttered the words that were in my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is gorgeous. This is perfect. This is so much growth for Kratos.
Yeah, it was like perfectly said in my mind. And then just like Freya's response, like she doesn't say anything, but just like the look on her face, man, like tells you everything that you need to know. And then like in a similar vein, um, Freya leaves. They do the whole like forearm shake, and then
Mhm.
Freya leaves, and then the camera just like stays on Kratos for a little bit, and then just also like the look on his face too, man, was like just
He
so good.
sighs. He sighs for a
Yeah,
moment, really, really deep breath, like, finally, I don't have to kill her. You know, because it's they have this conversation. I don't know if it's prior to this moment or after, like in during gameplay, where they indicate at Kratos subtly saying, "I could have killed you," but she doesn't want to accept it. And she's like, "No, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have won that fight." But we know who would have won.
I'm pretty sure Freya said the same thing to him. Was that like she said something? I think like later on, like, "Hey, like, do you actually like still want to fight?" Like play in a playful way. She said something like
Hmm.
that. Um, yeah. But yeah, so anyway, we go back to Freyr's camp. Freyr and Freya have their reconciliation with each other. Um, and then I believe after that, we go back to Sindri's house. Atreus is there, right? Atreus is back from Ironwood.
He
Um,
is. Yeah.
yeah, he's already back from Ironwood. The kid is in his room. Sindri kind of storms out saying that we need to like screw his head back on. Because I think he was said this is when he started talking about like wanting to go to Asgard. Um, and then or something along those lines. I don't know. But then Kratos goes into the room and then he starts talking to him and he asks him, "Did you go to Asgard? Did you go see Odin?" And Trace is like, "What? No, of course not." Then he stomps out of the room and he's like, he's being a complete asshole.
You sound
And then
just
that's
like him.
when, oh, thanks, man. And then that's when Mimir steps in and he's basically saying that Trace is being completely out of line, and I really liked. I mean, there's a part of me that like doesn't like how like I wish Atreus just would have said like where. Well, obviously he couldn't have said where he was, but like I wish it was a little bit more clear about just like no, he wasn't at Asgard, he wasn't with Odin and stuff like that. But I like the following conversation between like literally Mimir like spearheading this conversation where Atreus is like, since when have you like started taking his side? And Mimir's like, when he was the only one like when he was the one like making sense or something along those
Yeah.
lines.
Hmm.
Um, and then like Tyr shows up, and then Freya is there. They start talking about him possibly going to Asgard. Um, and then that's when again Mimir starts talking, and he's like why would you only go? Why would you ever think about going to Asgard? Tyr's like, if you go to Odin, he'll only cloud your mind. And then Mimir is like, look at what Odin's done to us, to Tyr, to Freya, to me. Um, I thought that was like a really, really well done scene. And then Brock just like stumbles in too. He's like, what's what's everyone doing or something like that. Um, but yeah, I thought it was a really, really good argument that involved all the characters. And then Kratos walks up to Atreus and he's like, "You must decide who you want to be. Do you want to be Atreus or Loki or something along those
Oh,
lines?"
I don't know if this is the moment where he says, "Are you are
Yeah.
you
Are
Loki
you?
or are you my son?" You
Yeah.
know, or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's like,
That was late. That was when they have their reunion, I
"Bro,
believe.
these two argue all the time. There's so many moments where they have like a fight that every single moment they talk to each other, it's like a certified, uh, and I'm gonna say it, hood classic of a conversation." It
Yeah.
is beautiful. It is beautiful. I love, and this is where he storms out in this specific one.
Yeah,
Okay.
so he turns into the bear.
Mhm.
He hits Sindri. He
Oh
storms
boy.
out. Runs through the gateway. Kratos is at the doorway, and
Boy.
yells out "boy," which is the first time that he does that in the game.
And the
Atreus
only
goes
time he
through.
does that in the game.
Yeah. Atreus goes through the door. He lands, somewhere close to Freya's place. He goes back to he sees Charlie almost basically on death's door. He lights a fire inside the house to help out Charlie, who I feel like we don't know Charlie's fate. I don't know if you were able to go back there after the game or whatever.
I
But
believe there's an indicator of someone going to tend to Charlie.
oh, I think Birger maybe
What's is that the name? No, the name
the
of
big
yeah,
shield
yeah,
guy.
it's Burger. Yeah, it's Burger. Yeah, yeah.
Which we'll talk about him later because
Yep.
but yeah, so that happens. Atreus basically summons Othin's ravens. He gets teleported to Asgard, and this starts this whole section where we are exploring Asgard. We climb Hrungnir's wall, I believe, and then that's when we get introduced to Heimdall for the first time. And he is something for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The
I
most.
love his introduction scene. I absolutely love it.
It's a fantastic scene and so tense because they don't have music. They just have like very deep strings in the background, and ever so slightly it keeps increasing when they're talking. And he drops the apple, and he doesn't want to drop because he's basically he's handling Loki right now, keeping him by the wall, keeping him hanging. And he doesn't know if he should drop him or not because he doesn't. He sees the future, but he's like so amused. But he's such a dick. Oh my god, what a piece of shit. This is one of the most annoying characters in the last 5 years in a video game. God,
I loved him, man. I thought he was such a joy to see on screen, not gonna lie.
I agree.
I also kind of feel like I don't necessarily like blame him either because like I was just thinking about like if you had the ability to like literally like read every single person's like intentions like in their mind and like what they're truly thinking, knowing that like what people are inside is not necessarily like what they're like physically showing out into the world, right? This idea of like everyone's like wearing a mask,
Hmm.
and what lies behind it is like pretty ugly sometimes. So like just thinking about like him being able to see those true intentions, like, and what people are truly like underneath that mask, like it must be like not annoying, but it must be just like, like goddamn, you know what I mean? Like,
Like,
I
this
don't
guy's
know.
lying to me. God, and this is something you mentioned it. It's funny you mention it because that's correct me if I'm wrong, Macho, but that's something that Eric Williams went for with all the gods. That essentially what made them great, it's what also made them not so great. So Heimdall with his seeing the future, and Baldur with him not feeling anything, they essentially become corrupted in a way where you've experienced this lack of a sense or this plus of a sense for so long, you start to distrust, mistrust people. You start to not care about your own well-being like Balder did. So I don't blame Heimdall for being careful. But why you gotta be such a dick about it,
Yeah,
man?
but he does that immediately to Atreus. Like he says, Atreus comes like, "Oh, I just come to learn whatever about Asgard, right?" And then and then immediately Heimdall's like, "No, you're not.
No, you're not.
You bring destruction with you." And I know this. And then at the same time, we're kind of like, yeah, it's kind of true. He's trying to be a spy here. So,
What's
so,
the
so
little
we,
quote he says with the cities burning, Macho? What's that one?
oh man, oh no, yeah, like I see in your eyes, a city burning or something like that. Yeah, but just
Yeah.
the metaphor he tries to like embed into Atreus' mind to like kind of make him super uncomfortable and like he knows what his plan is. It's such a great introduction scene.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a really, really strong introduction to him as well. Um, but yeah, so we kind of this is the first time that we see Asgard as well when we're on the lift. I don't know about you guys, but this is not what I was expecting Asgard to be. But I also liked that like it went against my expectations, just by like how modest and like like restrained and like normal it is. What about you guys?
Yeah,
Pretty
I
much.
mean, they kind of set the when you're going through the village, Heimdall's like, oh, do you expect palaces? Did you expect this and that? Odin's, we're not like that. It's and Trey's
Hmm.
like, but what about the stories? He's like, oh yeah, I'm sure that all those stories that were told for thousands and thousands of years are really accurate. And I'm just like, damn, man. It's like he's taking this kid to the North Pole and not seeing Santa Claus or elves. Like like it's such like a really cool reflection scene for Atreus and I thought it was just really cool on top of the whole Asgard being somewhat normal in there. It's like a tight knit village, but as we all know, that's really more or less a mask.
Yeah, I mean, my only preconceptions of Asgard and all these gods are, as y'all know, the MCU. I don't really read a lot of the mythology or whatever, and I've only recently gotten to understand what these gods were. So the only Asgard in my mind was, like that golden city, and like this very extra looking civilization. But I was surprised. I kind of felt like warmth when I saw that. I saw the lodge and I saw the people going about in their wooden houses and not golden palaces. It felt nice. It didn't feel nice that I was with Heimdall, but it felt nice that I was in this city.
Yeah. So we get more of a sense of who Heimdall is as we talk to him. Um, there was, oh God, I wish I remembered this, but there was some line that he had when you're on the lift and he's talking to Atreus because obviously he's like reading his intentions and stuff like that, but he like nails Atreus like perfectly, talking about like, oh, you must be someone with like a father with like high expectations or something along those lines. And then he was like, he said something at the end of that whole spiel of like, when your mouth moves, I see like cities burning and things like that. And I was like, God, that's such a good line. Um, so yeah, we get on Giltopper, I think his ride is called. We go through the town. Um, and then we have like a little bit of a fight with him, and then again, this is where you get more of a sense of just like his arrogance. Um, but again, I just really love the fact of like he's just kind of like it felt like that Nathan Drake Nadine fight from Uncharted 4 where just like nothing worked at all against her. Um, and here it's just pretty much the same thing. Like you're using everything in your arsenal, and like no matter what you throw at him, like he just sees it like a mile away. And I just love the way of him just like talking to you, like everything that you do. He's just like, "Oh, you really thought that was gonna work? Oh, like you use Spartan Rage." He's like, "Oh, that was your big move, huh?"
Yeah, or even when you turn
Like,
to the wolf, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. But again, I just really loved Heimdall's like characterization like in this moment because it's like you really do get a sense that like because of his ability and being able to like read everyone's intentions, that he's just become so incredibly jaded over time because of it and just unwilling to see the positives in others. So like that's why yes, he knows that something is off with Atreus, but like he still is just like assuming the worst about this kid. Um
We're seeing the worst because you can actually see it. Um, but again, at this point in the story, I don't know about you guys, but I saw a lot of people like kind of they were like split on how they felt about Atreus, not in the sense of a writing perspective, but how they felt about him acting the way he did, and they were like super mad at him throughout a lot of the game because he was being kind of a very stubborn. But for me, I enjoyed seeing Atreus kind of like deal with the consequences, because you wanted to see Odin. All right, see Odin. You're gonna have to deal with his most loyal servant. Uh,
I never
I,
get those criticisms because it's like I swear people act like they never acted like kids or they're never stubborn before.
right.
So they can't have like the empathy or like the understanding of like why this person would do this at this moment. But like I understand completely. There's a bunch of there's a bunch of questions that Atreus has and he wants answers. And he's gonna go and get them. You know.
Essentially, yeah. And I don't. It's like in the first game, a lot of people found him annoying or whatever. I'm like, dude, it's a kid. Like it's yeah, have empathy. It's so I don't know. It fits the story. I like this moment with Atreus.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the most important part. It fits the story and it fits Atreus, him growing up and learning how to sort of navigate his own ways without Kratos, right? That's the entire point of like his journey here. So
Absolutely. And what happens here? So who shows up?
Yeah, so after the fight, Thor immediately shows up and basically tells Heimdall to back off. They have a little bit of a confrontation, and Heimdall kind of stops. And then Odin quickly follows, and I just really love this. His moments are really really good, man. This was one of those conversations that I really enjoyed with Heimdall, just like pleading to him, like, "Look, All Father, like this boy means to betray you essentially." And Odin's like, he kind of like gasps a little bit. He's like, "Loki, like, do you mean to betray me?
yeah,
You
Is
little
that true?
trickster."
Are you a little trickster?
yeah.
I love that.
Are you a little trickster?
He's like
Uh,
a little uncle.
yeah, and then he's like, "I'm just messing with you." Of course, he means to betray me, Heimdall. I haven't given him any reason to trust me or whatever. But yeah, that's just like the line that killed me even more was because like Heimdall keeps going, like he's like, but All Father, and then like Odin, he's like, like he says something in like Old Norse. It's almost like a I don't know, like a Spanish father like saying something in Spanish first before he like continues
Yeah.
on. He's like,
Ay, Dios mío.
yeah, like honestly, like something like that, and then he like his hands too. He's like Heimdall, would you just relax? Like the way he says that in like the first couple words that he says in Old Norse before saying like Heimdall, just relax, man. It was so good. I loved it so much.
It's fantastic.
Um,
And real quick to Thor, I didn't catch it the moment, so I'm gonna pretend like I caught it, but I caught it through an interview with Williams, where when Thor tells Heimdall, you know, because Heimdall is threatening him, he tells Heimdall to look at him in his eyes and tell him, "You tell me, like, what am I willing to do?" And in that moment, literally, it's Heimdall seeing what Thor was about to do to him if he acted and attacked Thor, and that's why he's like, you're a disgusting man." It's because he knew what Thor was about to do to him. I did not catch that in that
yeah,
moment. I
Oh
caught it
wow.
after the fact. Yeah,
yeah, I didn't
it's
catch
really
that
dope.
either. So yeah, then we basically move into like a little bit of a tour with
Oh, you don't want to talk. Wait, you don't want to talk about your the one of your favorite parts in that entire scene though?
which part?
When Heimdall was talking to Odin and on his right side, and what was it? Odin had to
Oh
turn
yeah.
around because of his eye patch because he couldn't see.
Yeah, he just kind of like pauses there for a second
yeah.
and then turns to the left. Yeah, that was a really good.
He's so
Like,
inconvenienced by the smallest things.
it's
I
really good.
it
It's
took a
like those
second for me
little
to register that. I was like, wait, what? Oh, the eye patch.
yeah.
Same, man.
So yeah, we go on a little bit of a tour with Odin through Asgard. We see Hreist and Mist for the first time. Also, we see Gná for the first time. Um, and then I want to say one of like because Othin is talking to you the entire time. One of my favorite lines, and again, this gives you a really good sense of like who he is and him just like always like he'll compliment you, but at the same time he will take it away in the same breath. Um, it's just like him talking about like oh I'm so glad you decided to come to Asgard and blah blah blah. But then immediately after he says, you're lucky I let you still come here even after a springing tear, right? So like it's a classic like manipulative move of like he gives you a compliment, but then like immediately brings you back down to earth with a critique or something like that. So like he makes you like not too high of yourself in like immediately. So I thought that was like really really cool. But yeah, so then you move into like the actual hall, and then what you meet Thrud first, right? She comes into Trace's room, uh, and she I think you kind of get a sense of like she's not too bummed out that her brothers are dead, right?
yeah, yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
He's glad.
Obviously
She's-
her mother is way more upset about that. But yeah, so and then you also meet Sif as well for the first time. She's like kind of like
Yes,
waiting.
sir.
Yeah, I'm waiting by the room. So
Amen.
after you meet, and then I think Othin actually takes you somewhere else in the realm as well. But after meeting Thrud and Sif, what happens after that?
You're able to go to Odin's room, or you can talk a little bit with through more.
Yeah, and
But
that's
he doesn't.
when he gives you uh
Ingrid.
Ingrid.
Ingrid,
Yeah.
yeah, a sword that's a sentient sword, that he had tied up in a like a pile of stuff. His
And
room
this is
is full with like antiques and stuff.
And this is when we first start to learn about the mask too, right? He takes us
Mm.
underneath like his office. And then this is kind of like where we get his motivation, which I thought was a really, really interesting question to pose was, which something I never thought about, but it's like mortals look to the gods for answers and things like that, but like who do the gods look to when they have, questions and things like that. And he is really hoping that this little green rift at the sort of cavern that he has will provide those answers for him. Things like where does he go when he dies? Um, and then the whole reason why he wanted Loki here was hopefully that he could help him sort of decipher this mask and get him closer to those sort of answers that eludes him, because he is someone who's obsessed with knowledge and making sure that he knows everything, so he's just always constantly prepared for what's to come. And I think it does kind of like freak him out a little bit that there are some things that he doesn't have the answers to. So yeah, that is like literally his end goal. That is the thing. That is the only thing he really cares about. He like could care less about his family. It's really just the mask and this rift that he's just become obsessed over. Um,
Yeah,
so
obsessed
and
over
then
knowledge.
I believe we this is when we go with Thor to Muspelheim, or is that too early?
I believe that's early because in this one, once Odin shows you every single like part of like his quote unquote empire, shows you the Anihar and all this, uh Loki goes to his room, and that's when the first transition happens, where he puts the knife on the barrel,
Mhm.
and then it cuts to Kratos with a
Yeah.
knife just like that in his room. So I think this is the first time we get a transition like that. So I don't think Muspelheim is, because in Muspelheim they he meets he sees Angrboda there. So I don't think it's the first time.
Right. Yeah, so we do that knife transition back to Kratos. Kratos is still kind of thinking about like, what are his sort of next steps and, pertaining to Atreus. And then this is when he goes to Freya and asks about the fates in these lands. What are they like? How does he reach them? Because he has some questions that he needs to ask. Um, Freya obviously doesn't recommend it, but she begrudgingly agrees, and together they go off in search of the Norns, which quickly, like this whole section is like one of my favorites in the entire game. We after like I believe like three tries, like three false like hideouts or whatever, we do eventually find the Norns well. Um, and it's like it was really cool because like the climb to the actual like location, it's like you're hearing their voices like talk to you. So like one of them was like talking about Kratos specifically, was like Kratos, the ghost of Sparta, like just like all of these lines about like who he is, and like kind of like pushing his buttons a little bit while you're fighting this traveler. And like it was really creepy and like unsettling, right? Because it's like and they did the same thing for Mimir and for Freya. It's like god damn, like they know everything about these characters. And yeah, it felt really, really unsettling, but like cool at this weirdly cool at the same time. um so yeah, and then you kind of get like these weird almost like dreamlike sequences before you actually get to the well itself,
Hmm.
where Freya kind of like relives Baldur's death, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then Mimir, what was Mimir's? It was like, I know it involved Sigrun, but like I think the moment that he kind of like was the moment that he like left Asgard or something.
I think betrayed. I don't know, because there's a lot of betrayal in Mimir's past. And I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
can't
just
remember specifically actually.
yeah, because he talks a bunch of. I always mix which lines he gives when because he talks a lot about how he regrets a lot of the decisions he made in regards to Sigrun and Odin.
Hmm.
Well, specifically talking about that because like Sigrun kind of like goes at him because like to be fair, like Mimir is responsible for a lot of the awful has done over all these years because
Yeah.
Yeah.
he is like his right hand man. He is his advisor. So yeah, I remember Sigrun like talking about that specifically. Like you are just responsible for all of this. Like you have caused like so much death just as much as him. Like in aiding all of these terrible gods, like you are just as responsible. Um, so that was Mimir's. And then Kratos's what what was Kratos's dream kind of thing? I forget what was his
It
exactly.
wasn't it wasn't focused on any of the Greek stuff. That's for sure.
No, no,
Yeah,
it
which
wasn't.
was that was surprising to me. Um,
Yeah, I think they
it,
because I mean, there's so much. I don't know if they. I don't know if they would. That would have been insane if they recreated the moment where he slashed
I
Calliope and
thought
his.
that's what I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, I thought so too. It was mostly just what focus on Atreus, right? And just sort of like I
Yeah.
guess his paralyzing fear of losing him and or doing the wrong things to teach him or that he didn't, teach him the right ways or whatever case may be. But it was more like along those lines of just like a fear of connecting with Atreus, not really much with the Sparta stuff or anything any from the previous games, which was kind of weird. I don't know. I thinking about it now, I'm just like that definitely should have been included because that's what set him off.
Yeah, and real quick, guys, I need to dip now. However, I have already talked a lot about God of War in prior episodes, so if y'all want to hear my thoughts, you can visit the first part of the spoiler cast.
You
Hmm.
want to
If
talk about the Norns really quick?
let's talk about the Norns real quick and how amazing that sequence was.
Okay, so we get on the Kelpie. Really cool scene of like the Kelpie diving underwater. And again, just the camera following you the entire time. You land onto their little lair inside a little bubble like pocket. You step inside and it's just like again like one of my favorite scenes in the entire game. Where you're speaking to the Norns and they're literally like finishing sentences for you and Kratos obviously has, his questions about like, how does he protect Atreus? How does he get him back? All these things, and this is sort of like when you get the revelation of there's not necessarily a sort of like their lives aren't necessarily like written out, already for them. It is like destiny as a concept isn't like a real thing. It's literally just that these characters are literally archetypes. They are so predictable that they can they can literally just predict what decisions they'll make based off of their track records, which I thought was really really funny. So what did you think about this entire scene?
I really loved how this scene took advantage of the one shot uh, element of the game and how because it was centered always on Kratos and Freya, but that's how they played around with the Norns entering and exiting the scene and going because there's a bunch of threads around. So they're like in this little room that is surrounded by many threads hanging by the from the ceiling, which threads of fate or whatever you want to call it. Which reminded me of a show, Prince of Blood of Zeus, Prince of Zeus, something like that. Where there's a scene where there's a bunch of strings and the fates are in there. Um, I loved how we get clarification that there's no destiny. It's simply that these beings are so powerful and so incredible at predicting that they can kind of just, they seem prescient because of the way that they can essentially tell what's gonna go on in these people's lives, uh, to where it shows when Kratos says, wait, Heimdall, they reveal that Heimdall's gonna kill Atreus. Uh, he focuses on that, where the Norns are like, oh, see, it focuses on the final act and exclusion of the second act or something like that. So they don't see their lives as lives; they just see them as a play. So as a story that's being unfolded in front of their eyes. Uh, it's a fantastic scene. Each Norn is very distinct from each other. They're all, no, I wouldn't say they're all annoying. The one that's annoying is the one that jumps in whenever Freya's gonna say something, to the point where she jumps at a point where Freya is mid sentence and Freya goes shut up, and she also utters shut up and then laughs. I love how much they're making fun of Kratos and Freya.
How petty they
But
are.
and how petty they are. Yeah, no, they are, dude. In my mind, I'm like Kratos. All Kratos would decapitate these three ladies because he would be annoyed for like a minute and just go ham. But I like that he had restraint to the point where he was leaving. They uttered, it was an honor, or it was a pleasure seeing your story goes to Sparta, or sad that it has to come to an end. As they're walking slowly, and you look at Kratos and Freya's face with doubt and uncertainty, and kind of thinking, are we doing the right thing? We trust destiny? It's such an emotionally charged scene, and the Norns are phenomenal. I love the Norns. One of my favorite scenes in the game in general, and the both games in conjunction. So really nice.
I think my favorite thing about this scene is that like the Nords actually tell Kratos like how to subvert his what they deem will be like his prophecy or whatever.
Yep.
They like literally they don't say it outright, but they're like essentially like, hey, like stop acting like an archetype, like stop acting like the person that we have known you to be like for all these like hundreds of years or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's why Odin dies at the end, because he could never break away from his archetype. That's what led to his downfall.
He said it himself. I'll never change. He admitted it. So like everyone was willing to change, so they averted certain doom. Most did, but I love it. It's such a beautiful way to do the age-old, against destiny tale.
And I think like this like literally is like a reflection of like a lot of these characters, about characters either changing too late, from like changing or breaking their archetypes too late, or just not breaking it at all. So like they bring up Balder, like he could have walked away at the end, but he didn't, and that's what led to his death. Heimdall, he literally just could have like stopped talking in his fight with Kratos, right? But he had to bring up Atreus. That's what led to his death. Thor, he changed way too late. If he would have stood up to Odin far earlier, like Sif told him to, maybe he wouldn't have died to Odin in the way that he did. But he ended up he ended up breaking away from his archetype way too late, and that's what led to his death. So I really liked that, like the thing that I think subverted what Kratos was prophesized, which was his death. The thing that made him avoid that was eventually breaking that archetype that the Norns expected him to continue to follow. Yeah, I thought that was a really just like beautiful, beautiful scene. And then Bear McCreary's song, literally just titled Ragnarok, playing in the background during that scene too. Like it's just like the cherry on top. So yeah, this was by far like I think like top 3 scenes in the entire game for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Truly felt like a one shot. This one, it felt immaculate. It felt beautiful. Very nice scene. To that same point, I have to dip, but I could talk Ragnarok all day. I'll probably bring up Ragnarok in the future, just in moments where I just want to talk about it. But I enjoyed this 45-minute discussion we had so far. I hope y'all dissect the hell out of this game, because there's the twist that's about to come. I can't wait to hear what you two talk about it.
Enjoy your
Yeah.
time, bro.
Take care, y'all.
Um. So yeah, and then we leave the Norn's little lair. We get back on the Kelpie, we get out of the water. We see Odin's noose, the noose that he hung himself for like I forget how many days, but it was again like all in the search for knowledge. Um Freya ends up taking the noose. I felt I was a little like this scene was like kind of like to me because it just felt like a little too convenient that like they get out of the water and they're like, oh, something that will definitely come back into the plot at some point is just like right next to us, you know. So yeah, I was kind of like, okay. um
Yeah, I mean, with there's a couple of like stuff that you're like, I'm not gonna think about that too much, but I'm just gonna enjoy the
yeah,
rest of the story because everything else is so good, and then there's like points like that where it's just like, that's interesting.
yeah. So yeah, and then after this, I believe we go back to Sentry's house, and then correct me if I'm wrong, Freya well obviously with this information from the Norns, Kratos wants to go to Asgard. I think like immediately to go get his son.
Mm-hmm.
Um but what happens after that? Freya goes back to Vanaheim. And then, yeah, what happens after that? I think we go back to Atreus, right?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think we go back to a trick because Kratos goes to his room. He's gonna decompress. So you see him put down
Right.
the axe, uh, take off whatever armor he has, and then he's no, actually I think he ends up like what, punching a wall or something like that, and that's when it transitions to Atreus because he's doing the same thing.
Well, before all that, we get our second Faye flashback or dream,
Oh, okay, yeah. So he goes to sleep. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
right? So yeah, so we go back and see Faye again, and like I don't know, I feel like this dream was kind of like if definitely fleshed out their relationship a little bit more, but like I feel like I didn't really need this one. Like yeah, it was nice to get on the boat with her, and then it just kind of like reinforced an idea that we already knew about, where you know Kratos obviously was like he wasn't fearful of his son, but he was fearful for him, and he didn't want to sort of like again didn't want him to know, didn't want Atreus to know about his past. Um, so like I don't know, I just felt like these were things that we kind of already knew about. Um, but then I do think we get the reveal that it was Faye who first said you know the whole thing of like we must be better, right, for our children and things like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um
I mean,
yeah,
I feel like any scene with Faye is like another scene of clarity, not just for Kratos' character and like kind of like clearing his mind and giving him a sense of peace, but also kind of just filling in sort of the gaps for us. So it does retread some ground, this scene of what you were just talking about. But I think that it's just another peaceful moment for Kratos. That I think it's also just a nice nod too that anytime that he's in a moment of solitude, he thinks of his wife.
yeah. Um yeah, so and then after that scene that's when we also I mean even before the whole Faye flashback, I just wanted to like comment on like I felt like this was the first time in the game that I really when Kratos, you know, threw the blades on the floor and then gently puts down the axe. I really like the difference there. Um, but and then takes off his armor. But when you see him in bed, like I feel like this is the first time in the game where I actually felt like Kratos for the first time looked old. If that makes sense. Like I don't know. Like I don't even mean that in like a funny way, but like I really felt like they did a good job at like just showing like the wear and tear. Like this is definitely a man who has lived like multiple lifetimes, and like I don't know, you just see it like just etched into like the wrinkles in his skin, and it's just like how beaten down he is, and like I don't know. I thought they did a really good of just like showing that on his body. Um And then yeah, so we had that. We had the whole Faye sequence. We come back. Um, Kratos, gets out of bed, starts punching the wall. Transitions back to Atreus. And then this is where we kind of find out that this was like I forgot what they said, like a stress technique, I think, that his father had taught him, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, so we're back with Atreus, and I believe this is when we go with Thor to Muspelheim to kind of learn more about or collect more pieces of the mask, right?
yeah, yep.
So what did you think about that whole entire sequence then?
I think any sequence with, honestly, it's usually with these kind of like transitions in games. I'm kind of groaning the fact that we got to go back to this character again. Spider-Man being one of them. I absolutely love Spider-Man. Going back to Mary Jane and Miles Morales in those sections were are just so painful sometimes. But for Atreus, it's the exact opposite. It's super fun, and then at the same time, you kind of get the dichotomy of him being such a naive but also really curious and lighthearted sort of character against these other kind of gruff and tough, whether it be Thor or his parallel, which is Thrud. I thought it was really cool. I love these sections. Like, with just, I think that the actual objectives, it's a little weak. It's like Odin giving you a fetch quest, and I guess it's sort of like to his character, but like at the same time, like as gamers, we're just like, yeah, we kind of know what that is. It is what it is. I'm here for the story and for the nice visuals at this point. Um, yeah, that's how I feel about those sections, really.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was definitely nice to get like more characterization with him. Um, so and then after this whole sequence, yeah, we do see Angrboda again. Here in Muspelheim, another kind of reveal of, I believe, Suitor's whole Jotnar shrine, and then we get the kind of information with him and Sinmara, them merging together and creating this giant sort of form that will be present during Ragnarok.
Hmm.
Um, and then we go back to Othin, and again, I think this is a really excellent scene of just like showing like who this man like really is, despite what faces he may present to people. Like this is who Othin is at the end of the day. Is like when Atreus is like trying to make Thor seem better in in his father's eyes by saying like, oh yeah, like I learned a lot. Like Thor taught me a lot. And Othin kind of pauses and he's like, oh really? What could you possibly have taught him, right?
Yeah.
and and Thor just kind of like stands there quietly and he's like, nothing, all father, like what could I teach him? And Othin like agrees, he's like, yes, exactly, nothing, right? And it's just
So crazy.
like right, like but again, that goes to, it does a really good job of just like establishing what their relationship is like, um how just toxic that relationship is. Um, but yeah, so we get that. Um, and then how do we get back to Kratos after that?
Uh, damn. Doesn't Atreus go back?
You're right. You're right. Yeah, he does. Yeah, I think he does. He man, I'm trying to think. Does he just go? He doesn't land straight back into Sindri's house, though, right?
No, I don't think so. I think he goes to I don't know, man. It's been a couple months since I played the game, so I'm trying to remember now. Uh, that new game plus need to come out tomorrow. Let me see. Hold on. Give me one
Yeah,
second.
trying to see. Um,
Hold on, I'm looking. Let's see.
Actually, you know what? Okay, so goddamn, Walt tripped me up, man. I swear. Um,
What he did?
so the whole Muspelheim stuff did happen the first time that you were in Asgard, not the second time. So So yeah, literally the first time that Atreus is over there.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
when he
when all
goes with
this stuff
Thor,
happens.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I was like,
okay,
I
yeah, that's what
knew.
I was thinking too, but I wasn't. Man, that dude needs to answer for his crimes right now.
Um. So yeah, and then after I think that's when he puts the knife down, and then we transition back to Kratos, um, and then that's when the Norn stuff happens. Um.
Yep, that's what I'm seeing here. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um.
And then what we were talking about was that we're going to hell with Thrud.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Um.
Yeah, we're looking for another piece of the mask. Then we get a little more back and forth on like I especially like this section because Thrud really challenges Loki on his viewpoints of who Odin is. Cause and it makes sense, right? Cause like she grew up with this entire family, and only knows one side of the whole equation here, but it's the loving side, right? She's or at least the loving complicated family side, and when you have someone else challenge that, you're gonna get defensive, which we saw through B here, and I really like this because Loki doesn't like respond, not Loki, but Atreus doesn't respond and sort of malice or like I know better than you sort of way, but more of just like, yeah, I get it, I understand where you're coming from, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And also it was just great to have someone, and just like Angrboda, it was nice to have someone like his age that he could like interact with.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can kind of get the sense that like he really needed that, because like if you look at the people that Atreus like talks to on a daily basis, it's like Mir, it's Kratos, it's Freya, right? It's like all these adults. So this is definitely like really good for him. Um,
for sure.
Also, I really quickly just wanted to go back to the Norn section when you're having those dream sequences with Freya, Kratos, and Mimir. One of the lines that Sigrun kind of says to him is that I just remembered, and I was like, yo, that's a that's a really good line. Is when she's talking to Mimir, and she's saying that like, oh, you plotted all his wars, like you're responsible for like a lot of this, like you didn't care about any of the things that you were doing with Odin until he eventually like turned on you or whatever. One of the lines that Sigrun says is that you whenever you see a violent god in need, you just can't help yourself, right? And I was like, God, man, like,
Wow.
right? Yeah, I really love that line. Um, yeah, and then she's also like, you can't help yourself, and you also call him brother, right? So yeah, I really love that line. Um, okay, so yeah, back to the Helheim section. Um, this is when we meet Garb for the first time, right?
Yep, I was about to say this is where we see. Yep.
Yeah, so what would you think about the whole freeing of Garm moment?
I didn't know what to expect because I don't remember Garm in the story, or at least the novel that I read, honestly. So this was something completely new to me. And so the fact that Garm is what, a dimension rift opening big doggy,
Yeah.
essentially. Yeah, that was like a really cool wrinkle. And I didn't really understand like the whole weight of that um until we had the reunion. But yeah, I mean, obviously people were pissed, and it's a big problem. So I was just kind of along for the ride here. But what was your take on it?
I I wish it was, and also we skipped a really important scene. We'll circle back to it. Um, I wish Garber's cool. I really like his design and all of that. I really wish that the once you do get him into Fenrir's body, I wish that ability was used some more. The realm tearing stuff, because now it's like, okay, we have essentially like a our own personal like fast travel machine like at our disposal. You know what I mean? But it's only like used. We only see it like that one time when Fenrir leaves to go back home. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
maybe two times. Um, but then also, like, I wish that, like, because everyone, Freya, Mimir, Tyr, like Atreus, what the hell were you thinking, man? Like, you freed Gar, man? Like, what?
I, I,
And
I,
then,
I,
like,
get- I had no idea what he did either. I was just like, okay.
Yeah, and what I mean is that like I wish that we actually saw more of those consequences because like yeah, we did see Hellwalkers come to Sindri's house and like that was a really cool moment, but like I feel like besides that, like how cool would it have been if like we were in um I don't know, like I'm just giving like a wild example like Alfheim or no, if we were in and it's weird because we have some intermingling of like creatures that are only supposed to be in Alfheim show up in like Midgard through like the realm tears, right? And things like that. But like I wish that was like a little bit more like apparent in this moment because like Garm should have been like tearing you know doing realm tears like all over the place. So it would have been cool if we did see more monsters from like who are like exclusive to certain realms sort of like leak into other realms that they're not supposed to be in, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so like, because everyone was talking about oh consequences and stuff like that, and I feel like we just didn't really get to see a lot of that. Um, but regardless, yeah, I really liked Garm and the whole freeing of him, and it's very much in line with like Loki as a character of him just like being so chaotic. But I really like how this game handles it, where it's like this was unintentional, but at the same time, this is totally like something that Loki would do just to fuck with the Aesir, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I was kind of digging. Like any sort of chaos he was doing, I was like, okay, Loki, you want to free a big dog? Go for it. you know, um,
yeah,
I figured that was kind of the intention as well, considering like Loki is such a pain in the ass for the Aesir gods.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so to circle back to the scene that we missed, after we talked to the Norns, Kratos, he obviously, Asgard, he wants to go there, but his main focus is Heimdall and how to stop Heimdall. And I forget who tells him about his ability to, read the intentions of people's minds. Um, but essentially, they tell Kratos that, like, hey, your chains and your axe will probably be useless against him. You're gonna need a new weapon. You're gonna need something that throws him off guard. And then this is when the dwarves bring up Dropnir for the first time. Um,
Yes, sir.
yeah, so we get the scene of Sindri going down this well. He's able to get the ring. I'm guessing the original ring because all the others are just like almost like dead copies or something.
Such a cool
Um,
scene too. I love it.
yeah, yeah. So he gets the ring, um, and then gives it to Brock, and together they go back to Svartalfheim, where they meet the lady, the mermaid, or the lady in the lake, or lady of the lake.
Yeah, this is
Um,
one of my favorite sequences in the entire game. Just this whole venturing with Brock and them talking to each other and then eventually get to Lady Lake. I love it all. It's so good.
yeah, go ahead and talk about that scene once they actually get down into the water.
Oh man, I had that honor. Oh man. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so this part was one of the coolest things I've seen in probably the whole God of War series, just because of the whole. I just love the whole mysticism about it. Of how, like like an ancient creature, in this case like a mermaid, that's also just a smithy for legendary weapons or for any of that nature. And so that's where we're gonna go and get the drop near spear, and it's so cool just seeing her actually make the entire thing. Obviously it has like sort of like a mysticism to it, but had taken Kratos' blood as well and sort of infusing that into the weapon, making it really his, and then it ends up being like a little ring. It's super cool how he just puts it on, and like just a flash, it ends up in his hands, and it's so epic and Greek like. It feels like it's like such a really cool callback for Kratos in this sense, since he was a general and he was a Spartan, and spear, as he said in the actual game, that a spear is one of the first weapons that they were trained with. So I really feel like we're going back to the roots with him, and to see him be in his element was pretty sick beyond Leviathan Axe and the Blaze of Chaos. But I would say so like the most out of all the great stuff that we've seen and we talked about before, probably the most memorable is the conversation with Brock and how Kratos is sort of struggling with his journey and what what's the real point of it, and well, Brock's famous line now at this point is what it's do you remember it?
Um, it is not the form of a thing, it's the nature.
Yeah, yeah. And then so this entire line that's kind of like been the bedrock of their adventure throughout Svartalheim and getting the spear is really encapsulated when the spear needs to be blessed, and Brock asks the mermaid to bless it for him, and she doesn't respond to him, and it's really mystifying. You're like, what's going on here? Like, why is she just completely ignoring the dwarf? And especially since like he looked up to her and stuff like that, and stuff like and all that. It's like a legend for him, and he's seeing it face to face, and she's just deliberately ignoring him. And it turns out, or at least Brock finds out in this situation, that he's missing a piece of his soul because he died before. And we see that heartbreaking reaction, and also quite a little bit funny in the Brock way reaction. He's playing Sindri. He's like, that piece of crap. I knew I died. This, that, and the third. And it's he kind of like blows up, and then Kratos kind of tries to bring it back. Like, the spear still needs a blessing, and needs a blessing of a great blacksmith. And then that's where Brock says, I can't even bless it because I'm not whole. And that's when the lines throw back at him, and it's so good. I love when stories do this, man. When they tell you the original pitch in the beginning of it, and then it comes back around, it feels like a full circle moment. And this was the moment that really sold me on the just like the weapon and sort of like the story behind it, but also Kratos taking the lessons from other people and really taking them seriously and taking them to heart, and in this sense throwing it back at Brock, and then that's when they bless the spear, and then you're good to go.
Such a good scene, man. It is such a good scene. Even just like the design of the mermaid too is just like, or just like, I'm always impressed with like God of War, because like in terms of just like how it always manages you to show you shit that you just like are always just like awed by, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just like you look at the screen with like some of these locations are just things that you never could think of, and you're just like, wow, you know what I mean? And this was like one of those moments where it's just like I don't know. I knew, obviously from that trailer we knew that mermaid was going to be in the game at some point, but you don't have any context for it. You don't know like what she's gonna do. Some people were actually thinking that she was I think Ran, which is like one of the gods in Norse mythology.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, but just like to get on that platform, submerge underwater, and to go about it that way is just like, I don't know, man. Like it's just like with God of War, it's just like it's never like simple. They always got to go extra. You know what I mean? So it's like at the end of the day, we're just getting like a weapon like put together and like blessed, but like no, it's this whole process onto itself. You know what I mean? So like I just always really love that about God of War.
Oh yeah, this because this one's just so layered, as we talked about before. It's not just a spear, right? It's one, it's a legendary spear that needs to be specifically made. On top of that, it's a historical significance, or at least I wouldn't even say emotional. It's more of just like it's a deep connection for Kratos because it is the first weapon that he learned to use when being trained. Um, on top of the red flag too, man. I love the red flag. That little touch is like for Sparta moment. I don't know why. Like as soon as I saw that little red flag on that spear, I was like, for Sparta. Yeah, that's so dope. That's so cool.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's, and then I mean like let's talk about like immediately, going back above water, spear in hand, testing it out for the first time. That music kicks in, which is like a remixed version of the Svartalfheim theme.
Oh yeah.
Um, it's like it's not as good as like the moment when you come out of Kratos' house with the blades for the first time, but it's still hit for me. Just like just using the spear for the first time, seeing those finishers for the first time as well. And
Super
again,
sick.
just like yeah, and again, just the music kicking in the background, and like it was like literally, what's that saying? Like leading uh like meat to the slaughter or whatever. Like that's literally what it was. I was just like, okay, who's next? Who's next? Who's next? You
Yeah.
know? So
I also just love the other gameplay implications other than just combat for the spear. It's one of my favorite things in video games ever, I think, and it really started from Resident Evil. Just like the addiction of finding something in a game and then recalling when or where you're able to use this thing, and you get that with the spear. And immediately, you put it to use by throwing it into a rock wall and swing to another ledge or something. And to my mind, it's like, oh man, I just opened up way more possibilities and secrets I can unlock in this game, plus combat stuff that gets really really juicy near the end.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I definitely warmed up to it by the end.
Yes,
But
sir. Yes,
yeah,
sir. We
I
told you, man. We are like, oh, this thing's dope.
I actually think in that initial stream, like when you first start using it, once you get out of the meeting with the lady,
Hmm.
after that fight, I was like, you know what? I don't really like it. 'Cause, um, but yeah, so we get the spear. We go back with Brock. I think he says that he's gonna like stay behind or something like that. And you start
Yeah.
like walking off by yourself, and this is when Odin comes to say hi. He gets to see you again. Um, and again, this is I think just like another moment that shows just like how Richard Schiff just like steals every scene that he's in. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the one thing we can take away from Ragnarok is that it has. I think it's the best villain in the entire series. Odin is the best villain. Let alone for 2022 games and stuff like that. He's just one of my favorites. Like, you always are just entranced whenever he's on the screen, and he's written so meticulously that it feels like a headache to write Odin. You know, because
Yeah.
everything's intended, but for him, it's literally just it's so effortlessly. So the fact that he's written such a careful way like this, it's really cool as someone that's that was like an aspiring fiction writer or whatever the case may be. I think they can get a real kick out of what a layered villain looks like.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so like in this conversation, again, it goes back to show like that classic thing that manipulators will do, where they will give you a compliment 1 second and then immediately bring you back down to earth with like a criticism or whatever, something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so Othin is here talking to Kratos, and he's like complimenting how what a good job that he's done raising Atreus. He's like, oh, that boy, he's so clever, he's so kind. Are you sure he's yours? It's just like that's what I'm talking about, man. It's just like he'll give you his flowers 1 second and then immediately take it away from you, you know? So like like yeah, it's so good. Um and then again, literally I think like maybe 2 lines after that, he's like oh, did they not have metaphors in your land?
Yeah.
Or rather, did they? You know, so like again, just like pressing the right buttons, just like everything that he says is so deliberate. He knows exactly what he is doing with every word that he says. Um,
It's
so
crazy. It's so crazy how layered he is.
yeah, I loved him in this scene. Um, I think that is I think I think that's pretty much it for this scene. And
Yeah,
then
I don't
also
remember anything other specifically, so yeah, I think so.
yeah, and the last thing I'll say is that Othin again, just like pushing his buttons, is like, oh, I know the god that you once were, like alluding to the fact that like Kratos is not that god anymore in terms of just like power, you know what I mean? Like he's not that anymore. But then Kratos is like, return to me, my son, or you will see the god that I once was. So
Yeah.
like I love that kind of stuff, man. Even Thor kind of talks about that in their first fight of like, how are you ever a god of war? Or like, when he's like choking Kratos at the end of that fight, he's like, even this lesser version of you, right? Like, so just again alluding to this fact that like Kratos has gotten older, he's not what he used to be, things like that.
Hmm.
And then actually the last line that we can talk about, which will come to play in the very last bit of the game, is Odin telling Kratos, in any of your lifetimes, has anyone ever prayed to you, ever worshipped you? Do you understand? Do you even understand that kind of love? No. Just a fantastic line. We heard it in the trailer, and it remains like really, really good here.
So damn good.
Yeah. Um. Okay. So we go back with Freya talking about Heimdall, and again this goes back to show I think how obsessed and like narrow-minded she is on just like specifically going after Odin. um so like Kratos obviously is like having these reservations and things like that. And she's like, "Hey, as long as the plan involves killing Heimdall, like nothing else matters." Um, so yeah, we get back on the little train with Freya. We go back to Sindri's house, um, and I think this is when this might actually be okay. So this is what's funny, Macho. This is actually the scene where Kratos takes off all his armor and his weapons and goes back to bed, and then we have the face sequence, and then we have him punching the wall,
Oh, there you go.
and then we go back to the hell section.
Oh, there you go. All right. So let's talk about this
Um,
section all over again. So I really like. No, I'm just kidding.
hell no. um, so let me see. Like, trying to think, what happened after that hell section?
It's the reunion. It's where Atreus. I want to say. Yeah, it's where they go back to Sindri's house, and then they're fighting off the horde of, what was it? The horde of what's it called? They're just fighting off like not zombies, but whatever. But
Walkers.
that the walkers, yeah, and that's when they learned that Atreus opened the rifts, or at least released Grom, and that's when he opened the rifts, and they had to, and everyone was just basically pissed over at Atreus, like saying, "How could you do this? Are you stupid?" Like, blah blah blah. Everybody's really getting on him, and then Kratos just the one person to be like, "Leave him alone. This is our problem. We'll fix it together." And that's what you see as like a real like bonding nature between Kratos and Atreus. I really love that part too. Right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah, you're right. It's the reunion. It's when after that fight, it's all like foggy, and you're kind of like scared that something bad really happened because you can't see anything. You slowly kind of get a reveal of like, okay, here's Tears, okay. Brock and Sindri. Brock is bleeding, but he seems to be okay. And then the fog clears a little bit more. You see Freya is okay, and then Kratos keeps walking, and then eventually you see Atreus come into view, and then Kratos asks, "Are you Atreus or are you Loki?" And then Atreus doesn't say anything, and then he runs to hug Kratos, and it's a really, really good scene.
yeah.
Um,
Everything that follows afterwards is just masterful too. When they go back to hell, and yeah, it's really great stuff.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, as you alluded to, we have to go back to hell to fix a little problem that Atreus made. Um, and that's when we got our fight with Garm and the Hellhound himself.
One of the
Uh,
best boss fights in the entire game.
yeah, this was really cool. And I was watching a spoiler cast, and they made the point where like, and I agree, is that like with fights like these, it's usually like they're usually always similar in the fact where it's like you usually get to see it like from their torso up. You know what I mean? In like big giant like boss battles like this, and it's like, oh, focus on their hands. Start
Oh
attacking the
yeah,
hands
right, yeah.
specifically. I like with Garm, it's like no, like you're actually it's the whole body that you're fighting. So I really like that. Even like the dragon from 2018, right? It's like you're not even like fighting the entire body, right? If I'm remembering that correctly.
Yeah, I
Like
don't
I feel
think
like
so. You're more like, I think it was more of just like you're chaining off like lightning reactions or something like that, and you use the nail to eventually drive it through the dragon. I think something
right,
like
right.
that. Forgot.
Um, so yeah, you're fighting Garm. I really like how the chain came into play with both of his attacks that
That
Garm
was
was doing.
brutal. Oh man.
Well, not even the finisher, but just like in Garm's like move set, how he would like sometimes like slam down the chain to attack you.
Yeah.
Um, and then also just like how it would come into play during the actual boss fight of like you needing to like freeze it at certain points. And then yeah, what you're alluding to, the final kill, like choking Garm out, breaking its neck. Um,
So
and you
brutal.
think you're done, but then what happens next?
Oh man. The finisher. Like
Yes.
the second part of this boss fight, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. So you find out that he's not dead. I mean he is a soulless husk. I feel like yeah, the moment you see those eyes, you kind of get that idea of like, oh, okay, this is like there's basically like nothing in there, but like I guess just like pure instinct maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, you fight Garm a second time. There's a few new moves added to its arsenal. Um, and then you kind of get the finisher of Atreus being more involved, where he has an idea. He runs up Kratos' chains and he drives his knife into Garm's head. Um, and we knew from Angrboda that there was a soul inside the knife. We didn't know. I feel like we didn't know which soul it was, but I feel like once it happened, once he plunged it in there, I was like, okay, I think I have an idea now.
Yeah, you
Um,
kept alluding to it in your playthrough. We were like, "Soul, shut up!" You can
um,
spoil it for yourself.
but yeah, do you wanna take it from here? What happened next?
Let's see if I can recall everything from here. So after after they defeat Garm, um, you're treading back to, I think you're going back to Sindri's house, and this is where you get the absolutely beautiful scene between Kratos and Atreus. And again, there's so many great moments in in the game, but this is definitely one that made me tear up for sure.
Wait,
Um,
but even before that, the Fenrir.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You want to talk about that then?
Oh, I thought I was gonna let you take that one.
No, no, no. Go for it, man.
I mean, I don't really have much else to say except for like, Fenrir is cute as hell.
Yeah, I mean, I love
Uh,
the behind the scenes for Fenrir too. Of they talked about his animations and bringing the dog in and stuff like that, and getting like the right tone of his mannerisms to make him seem like more of a dog than a wolf. I thought that was really cool. They did a really great job with that.
right, right. Yeah, yeah, this was one of those scenes that got me. It was just like, cause yeah, it was heartbreaking seeing Fenrir die so quickly in the game, and then yeah, just having him back, and in a way that didn't feel forced or anything like that. Like it, it made sense, right? And it felt like good payoff off of things that happened all the way back in the things that happened all the way back in the beginning of the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was a really really nice payoff. I love things like that. That like actually rewards you from like I don't know, like from like sticking around so long. Um, moments that are like, oh yeah, I remember that from like the beginning of the book, or I remember that was talked about at like the beginning of the movie or whatever, and it comes all the way back around. Um, so yeah, that was a really really cool scene. I love that the cap at the of that entire scene is Kratos just being like, sit. um, but yeah, so then we could go back into the scene that you were talking about.
Yeah, it was the scene between Kratos and Atreus, and it was the whole, I can't remember word for word, but again the conversation of I need to for Atreus telling Kratos, I need to know you'll be okay, and then Kratos finally admitting that he's having trouble letting go of Atreus and let him be his own person. Um, what are the implications of he's worried if he didn't do a great job raising him, or if or if Atreus would make the right decisions, because he's hesitant on trusting him, especially after escaping to Asgard every now and then. I think after all this is it really proved Atreus really proved that he is capable and he is smart and he is caring and he's taking all this stuff that he's learning and plus the lessons from Kratos and making a new path. And so that entire, at least what I'm talking about here, is really for me embodies this entire scene. And again, it's really heartbreaking because like I never thought in a million years I would see Kratos smile and have like such an endearing moment with his son. And here we are, and it's like one of the most beautiful scenes in the entire game.
Yeah, I really like the line of Trey saying that you don't have to be who you were, just because I'm not there. So like Atreus is the thing that prevents Kratos from slipping back into that mindset. I mean, we see it later in the death of Heimdall that like, hey, Atreus isn't there. The thing like Kratos' anchor is not there to prevent him from slipping back into that version of himself that he hates so much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you have Atreus being here, like saying like, hey, like you don't need me for that. You know, you can do that all by yourself. So I thought that was really really nice. I will say that like I think this line, this instance of it worked for me, but I think they started getting a little too cute with it in terms of the repeating lines from 2018. So like in this one, the don't be sorry, father, be better. Like I was like, okay, I'm okay with that one. But then like later on, they repeat the in the direction of deer line, and I'm like, okay, like it's a little too much with me. It's just like calling back to like lines from the last game.
Oh, really?
Um,
I really liked both of them. I thought the don't be sorry, be better was a little more cheesy.
yeah,
Um, but I still liked it. I was like, oh, that's cute. And I kind
yeah,
of
for
wish
sure.
I kind of wish Sammy was in the room with me because I told her that a couple of times just out of like spite. So, um, it was just nice. It was a nice little cheeky moment between them. But the whole in the direction of deer that hit me a little bit harder.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I don't know. I definitely felt like yeah, they were getting a little too cute with it. I was like, okay, okay, we don't need any more of that. Um, but yeah, so we head back to Sentry's place, um, where everyone kind of gets the reveal of the mask, but no one really knows exactly like what it is, except Tyr brings up the fact that this is the thing that Odin was torturing him for.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so they talk more about the mask. Um, trying to think what else.
Well, after all this is when we head back to Vanaheim with Atreus,
Right,
and
right.
we get to Freyr's camp, and then that's when we meet
This Feeny.
Hildisvini, right, the boar. Um,
Mhm.
and then after that, what is I think
Okay, so this section kind of confused me. Um, the wait, so the whole like the whole scene about the Skull and Hottie, I felt like it hit me way harder in the trailer. Maybe it's because like yeah, we've already seen it and maybe that's why it hit me so hard and didn't really hit me in the actual game. Um, I I'm confused about uh the whole like moon like thing about why why did we have to do like all of this? Like you got what I'm trying to say? Like I don't know. I felt like the scene was just like something that we like obviously it's like um something cool in Norse mythology, so like we needed it to happen in the game, right? Like I don't know
I think it was more of like a level design sort of thing of like how can you make this really cool mythology embedded to the game design of the game, since Vanaheim 1 is huge and 2 is basically two places in one when you go from night to day. And you unlock a lot more stuff obviously the more you progress in the game or you progress in this level. So I think it was more of just like, let's not make this visit really redundant and make it actually mean something. And what better way to introduce that with like now you get a day and night cycle, and now it's a whole nother way to actually venture this level. So I think that was more or less the purpose of it, while also having some significance with Norse mythology and kind of tying that in. I was expecting a little bit more of Skull and Hati, in all honesty, but I mean, just the effect itself is really cool. But I understand where you're coming from. Like it didn't hit as hard because in the trailer you see, you're like, wow. But seeing it like actually in the game, I don't know, man. On an OLED screen with the music and everything, I was just like, damn, that's a visual feast. That was great. But I think there's nothing can't beat the wow factor of seeing for the first time though.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, nonetheless, it's still a gorgeous scene. I think the wolves as well are just absolutely gorgeous. I love the little detail of the one that chases the moon has the blue eyes, the one that chases the sun has the red eyes.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Um,
I love that detail too.
yeah. Um, so yeah, just an absolutely gorgeous scene. Um, and then from there, it's the whole Freyr section of needing to break him out of like he got like captured or whatever, and this is when we fight Heimdall.
Yeah,
This
man.
is the Heimdall boss fight, and I like I'm a little conflicted on this fight because like I like the actual fight itself, and I love the ending of it. The thing that kind of messes it up for me is that like I feel like yes, the first time that you use the spear against Heimdall, like absolutely, he shouldn't have known like what it would do, and it makes sense that he would be caught off guard by it. But then I'm like, okay, he knows what it does now. It's like, why is he still being caught off guard? You know, the second time, and then the third time that you do it. You know, um, and then like I guess like the way that I'm like rationalizing it in my head is that like he is so like how do I word this? Like his pride just got like it just took a really big hit, and now he's kind of like off his rocker a little bit because of it. He's kind of like losing that composure that makes him so like tough to deal with. Because it's like for the first time in a long time, he actually just got someone landed a hit on him, right?
Yeah.
So he's like kind of like losing it a little bit, and like he's losing his focus because of that. So that makes him more like easily like susceptible to like the follow-up attacks that you do to him. Um, just because like in his head he's like, what the fuck? I just got hit. Like what the hell is going on? So like, yeah. So he's just like losing his focus because of that. Um, but like I don't know. I feel like if I have to do that to make that make sense, like it gets a little bit murky. I don't know. How'd you feel about the whole spear thing?
Um, I don't. I didn't really think much of it, on the fact that it was like the means to an end, really. I I don't know because it's tough to compare for me. I always go back to comparisons with like other God of War bosses, and it's really hard to do that when they're completely different games at the end of the day. Um, but I don't, I ended up liking that boss fight either way and using the spear, and I felt like it was more like a video gamey thing than anything else. That at the end of the day is
Yeah.
more of just a video game. And that using that spear was more or less like your answer to everything. So why would it not work in the sense of, if you know if you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so it was just like a little nitpick, but
Yeah,
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 just something that like I couldn't stop thinking about. Um, so yeah, and then obviously that fight has like a second phase where I really love that like hey, like Kratos like he gave this kid the opportunity. He tried to like break out of this goes back to what the Norns were talking about, is that like, hey, like if Heimdall broke out of that archetype of him being that arrogant kid who doesn't know when to stop talking, maybe he would have survived this, but he couldn't in the Norn's eyes, he couldn't stop being what they were talking about, which is predictable. He did exactly what they probably knew he was going to do, and that's what led to his downfall. Um, and yeah, so like he brings up Atreus, and that's what makes Kratos kind of go off a little bit. And you have a second boss fight with him,
Mm-hmm.
and you end up strangling him until he dies. And it's just one of my favorite scenes because like seeing again the reaction on Kratos' face when it happens, uh, because it's like that moment where he's just like oh shit, like I did it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and then Mimir's reaction while Kratos is still choking him, right? Like telling him like, brother, you do not want to do this. And then like once Heimdall actually dies and Kratos takes the Gjallarhorn from his hip, and you see Mimir just like staring at Heimdall, man, it's just like it's such a good moment, man. I loved it.
Yeah. Really a really big character twist for sure. You would think because we think back to the trailer as well, and we're like, what made Kratos like have that face and his blood on him, stuff like that. Like, what made him horrified of what just happened right now, right then? And it turns out just because he deliberately killed Heimdall, and
Yeah,
it's it makes you really think of like, can Kratos really come back from his own ways, especially kind of giving in like this. So great
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Um, so yeah, so then after this we get Freyr, we free him. We have this whole sort of like quick time little sequence of like running with him on our back. Um, then we use his boat to kind of get out of the area. We're like flying with the boat. This scene was weird to me with Bierger.
Yeah, a
Of
little
like,
bit, a little bit.
yeah, like I don't know, man. It was just like you're telling me like no one could have done this. Like like they played it up like it was this big thing. Also, can't Freya fly as well, right? Like she has like her Valkyrie wings. Um and like I don't know, they're playing up this like it's this huge emotional moment that oh, beloved Bierger is sacrificing himself to
Yeah.
save the group. And it's just like I'm like, okay, I've had like two conversations with this guy this entire game. Um,
What's really funny, I was like, wait, who was that? When I saw the
right,
scene.
right. Um, yeah, like you see what they're going for, but like I don't know, it just didn't work for me. Um, but yeah, and then he turns out to be just fine, you know. But yeah,
I'm guessing you play the end game stuff then.
yeah, I got him back.
Okay.
Um, but yes, then let's see, we go back to Freyr's camp, and I think we go back to Sindri's place, right?
I believe so, yeah, because it's the Heimdall and yeah, I think that's yeah, I think that's it. I think we go back to Sindri's place. I have to know. Did you finally get that ball for what's her
Oh
name? The
hell
blacks.
no,
You still didn't do it,
hell no.
my guy. Why not? It gives you one of the best armors in the game.
I don't like her, man.
Is it the southern accent? Because every time you did your stream, you're like, "Shut up."
Yep, that's exactly it.
Oh man,
Um,
my man will not do well in South Carolina.
um, so yeah, we bring back the Gallahorn to Sindri's place. Uh, Brock, I think, has one of my favorite lines where he's like, "Happy Ragnarok, everyone. Let's drink." Um, and then Tyr pops up from his little broom closet. And he's like, "Is it true? Heimdall's dead? I can't believe it."
He said his broom
Uh,
closet.
yeah, yeah. And then he makes an interesting line where he says, "Odin swore peace, only so long if you spilled no more Aesir blood."
Yeah.
Yep. So very interesting line. And then Kratos just responds, "I refuse that deal." And then Tyr says, "Yet he honored it." So like, I don't know. I feel like this is when I was starting to realize that Tyr is being a little weird, but whatever. I just chalked it up to him being kind of like the diplomat that he is. So I didn't read too much into it.
Yeah, so did everyone else.
Yeah. Um, yeah. And then Atreus brings up the mask again, reminding the group that this is like what Odin wants at the end of the day. And then he actually brings up that he should go back to Asgard, to kind of crack a little bit more of this mask. Obviously, Kratos is a little uneasy about it. Um, but like surprisingly, everyone is like, "Oh yes, you should absolutely go. You should absolutely go there." Did you find that weird? Because I was like, "Why is?" Because everyone like a few scenes ago were talking about like how crazy it is to go to Asgard, and they didn't want him to go there, and all this stuff. And now all of a sudden, everyone's like, "Oh, absolutely yes, you should go to Asgard." Did you find that weird or?
I took it as like everyone really trusting Atreus and confiding in him. So I was like, sure, let's do it. But
Yeah.
honestly, this entire section was definitely needed of him going back to Asgard, and it's so good. So continue.
Um, Let me see. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, he goes back to Asgard, and I'm guessing, yeah, this is the Niflheim section, right?
Let me see. I want to say yes. Yeah, because they're looking for another piece of the mask, and we get Odin in that cool little hat that he likes to wear.
And
Uh,
actually, when you first step into like his office, uh, I just love that it's literally the first thing that he asks Atreus as soon as he walks in the door is like, "Heimdall's dead. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?" And it's just like you have like added context once you actually like go through the twist of the game, and it's like, yeah, once you actually like realize that he's been Tyr the whole time. It's funny going back and seeing this moment and being like, oh, he he already knew who did it, and it's just like he's just like literally just watching this kid lie through his teeth.
yeah, yeah, I know, which is really crazy because like if you approach Odin, and he's like, "That's weird." As the first thing he brings up to me, but he's Odin, so he's gonna know.
Right, right,
It's like Zeus is gonna know when Poseidon's dead or when Hades is long gone. So Odin's gonna know when his right hand man's gonna go.
right. Um, and then we kind of get this like fun but also heartbreaking scene of like Thor at the bar. How did you feel about this little
Yeah,
moment?
yeah. This is the part I was referring to. That's honestly one of my favorites because we get a lot more, much needed, I think, characterization with Thor. Thrud, I thought was awesome. I really liked her, but Thor was amazing throughout the entire game. But this is what really sets into context and makes him a much different Thor than we've seen before. I mean, we saw the comparisons to like Valhalla, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, stuff like that, with that kind of Thor. Like I feel like no other Thor that I know in like some sort of movie or TV or whatever or game is gonna touch on what Ragnarok did. At least from what we've seen before, and it's Thor. It's like to his stories from Norse mythology. He's a drunk, and it turns out that this drinking problem that he has, and it also leads to him neglecting his family, neglecting Thrud, and just I guess more or less like his responsibilities as an Aesir god and what that means to people and stuff like that. So yeah, we get this scene between Thrud and Thor. Through just trying to get him out of the bar, and then Atreus is with them, and then lo and behold, we have a rumble and tumble bar fight. What did you think about that?
I thought it was really fun, but I think the moment after is like what really got me of like seeing like Thrud like pleading to her father of like because like her dad is just like absolutely just like wrecked with like Heimdall's death and sort of the continued way that Odin treats him. Um, and he kind of like slips back into being a drunk, and it's like it adds even more context to like the beginning of the game when Thor first shows up to the house, and he has mead in his pocket, or wherever he keeps it, maybe under his belly or whatever.
Somewhere under there.
But right, and he puts the drink down. He pours it, in both the cups, but he never drinks it. He even has that moment where he puts his fingers into the mug and he just like rubs the mead on Mjolnir, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then when Odin does show up to the house, he drinks from both the mugs, but he like slams it in front of like Thor, almost like teasing him with the drink. And then he also has that line where he's like, "You're no fun anymore," like almost like referring to the drink, to the fact that he doesn't drink anymore, right?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that adds even more context to like things that happen at the beginning of the game, which I really liked. Um, but yeah, I was just like, I felt like I was really heartbroken by just seeing like this daughter like watching her dad like destroy himself in front of her, and like he's obviously like embarrassed about. He obviously doesn't want to be like this, but like there's certain circumstances that pushes him to do this, and then through just being like me and mom love you, like we're here
Yeah.
for you, and unlike his father. And I don't know, that moment really got to me, and like I really love just like Thrude's like patience and like the way that she like delivered some of those lines, because like you could see her just like pausing in like between some of those lines, and like maybe like biting her lip or just like looking away for a second, and then she continues. But like I don't know, I thought she really killed that scene, man.
Oh yeah, no, that was one of the best scenes in the game for sure. Yeah, this was the one where I was just like you really feel for them, and that they, and that's where it changed my perspective on Thor too. That he's just not a bumbling grunt, um, that just kind of doesn't care about life. Like he has a family and he has love behind him, but he chooses to reject it because of X, Y, and Z. But that doesn't mean that his family's rejecting him in that same sense. Like especially when it comes to Thrud, I feel like she's like the connective tissue between Thor and the rest of his family. So yeah, it was heartbreaking to see, but um, yeah, she killed it, man.
Yeah, she's great, man. I think me and you will agree that she like is definitely like one of our favorite characters in the franchise after this game for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
Um, so yeah, we go with Thor to Nibelheim, get the other part of the mask. Once we get that part, Odin shows up as well. And he's so happy. He's like, "You did it, Loki! Wow, you did it!" Um, Sif shows up quickly with the two Valkyries. Uh, basically like putting its poor little Atreus on blast, saying that his father killed Heimdall. Obviously, Odin knows.
Yeah.
Um, but like Atreus is like being ganged up on. He's got the two Valkyries there. He's got Sif. He's got Thor who comes after him too. Um,
Oh, he's in trouble.
yeah. Sif basically says that like, hey, like you said no more Aesir blood, being spilled, right? Family comes first, and you're not protecting family. So like, what are you doing here? Um, and Sif goes to like plead with Thor, um, basically like again saying that like, look, your father like our family is dying, and your father is not lifting a finger to make sure that that does not stop. He only cares about one thing, and it's clearly not us. It's not you. It's not me. It's not Thrud. It
Hmm.
wasn't Magni or Modi, right? Like he doesn't care about us. And then Thor kind of wakes up a little bit in this scene, and kind of like he puts his anger not necessarily on his father, but he needs to put it somewhere, and obviously Atreus is right there, so he's gonna go after Atreus. Um, but Atreus escapes,
Yes, he
and
does. Yeah, and that's when we get to when. Let's see. Is that when we get back to Kratos? No, that's something else.
yeah, we go back to Kratos because they meet in the realm between realms.
Right. Yeah. 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 Okay. Yep.
Yeah. I might need you to start like taking some of these scenes because my voice is like going out. So
I know I'm struggling to remember it scene by scene here, specifically because I played it back in November, so I'm trying to see.
um
Let me see. So,
yeah.
hold on, I'm trying to look right now. Let me see. Yes, people were using some sort of a guide. We can't remember everything that happens. A lot that happened in this game, man. But that's when. So after that, that's when we don't go to Kratos, right? We go to Hell, not Hell. Niflheim. We
What?
go to,
Well, this might actually be this is the betrayal or the big twist with Tyr.
we go to Niflheim. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm trying to think of where we left off. But yeah, so we're going to Niflheim, and then we find more of the mask, and yeah, that's when you get back to Sindri's tree and the big reveal with Tyr. Yeah. So this was, I don't know. Did you see this coming at all?
I should have the moment that he called Freya Frigg. I should have seen it better.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I mean, so this entire scene was honestly one of the best reveals of the entire game. So when we get back into his house, the group just starts conversing, whether it's about the mask or the case may be. Again, I'm fuzzy on the details here, but once they push comes to shove, we start to see Tyr being a little bit more aggressive in this conversation, and he starts slipping in with some words. He actually calls Atreus Loki, and the thing is, not a lot of people really sort of pay attention to these little details, but one person ends up being Brock, and then that's when you see Brock confront Tyr. And in the most Brock way, it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, or whatever the case may be, whatever he ends up saying. But he's pushing and nudging him, and then Tyr turns his back and seems like he's contemplating, or he's devising something, and you're just like, what's going on? Why won't Tyr answer him? And then all of a sudden, Tyr does a quick 180 on Brock and stabs him right in the chest. And ends up being one of the most surprising scenes in the entire game, because Brock is like, we see Brock as sort of unkillable, because he's sort of like a minor character, but also just the comic relief. And we see, at least we heard from Eric Williams at least, that the reason why Brock was killed in this game was because he's seen as quote unquote like the family dog. um, he's someone that you want to keep alive forever, and he's precious to you, but and then he ends up being taken away from us in this scene, and then that's when Tyr turns into Odin, and we find out that he's actually been Tyr this entire time, listening to our plans. And honestly, it's like a bewildering moment, because my mouth is open the entire time, of like, wait, how long has he been with us? Was he actually in the dungeons that we, or at least the caves that we've been ventured in the beginning of the game? Was he there the entire time? Did he put himself there just recently? And then if that's the case, where's the real Tyr? Is he dead? So like a million questions going through my head as Odin has Atreus at knife point, pulling him back, along with the mask. And thankfully Odin doesn't exactly escape with the mask here, and Kratos actually nails it to the wall with his spear, and does not take Atreus with him. Right, Odin just sort of disappears at this moment. It was this.
I that moment I didn't. Well, okay. So one of and I said this in the stream with the whole final fight with Odin. Uh, One of my biggest pet peeves with like any story is the whole where like you have someone clearly like down for the count, and like you don't kill them, you just talk to them instead of killing them, and then they like escape or whatever, because you took too long to actually kill them. Right? So that final scene with like Freya where she's like really drawing out, like just like choking him, where she could have just killed him right then and there. Like those types of situations I absolutely hate. The other thing I hate in stories is standoffs like these. Like It's just like I think the Minmax podcast described it as like Odin looks like some kind of like back alley like mugger the way that he's got Atreus right now in that scene. I'm like, it's ridiculous, man. Like these are gods, and like I don't know that them in this position was weird, but then just like how it all ended is like I don't know. I found it like hard to believe that like he is here for the mask and the mask only. He has the mask in his hands, right? Like he's good, and like I don't know, just like Kratos being able to like almost like no scope throw the spear and pin the mask into the wall, and I was like, well, okay, time to go. I'm just like, but wait, like that's the thing that you want, right? Like, why are you leaving here empty-handed? He didn't even take Atreus with him. He just like zipped right off, Like I don't know. I felt like that the ending to that scene was like a little weird for me, but
Yeah.
it was whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's. I think it's one of those things where it was. I thought that Odin left like that because he got what he wanted, and that was information. So, but for the mask thing, yeah, that was one of those things where he just ends up letting it go because I don't think he's gonna. The things I don't think he's gonna turn around and like start like fighting the spear to get off to get the mask out. He's just gonna dip because there were like a bunch of gods behind him.
sure, but he's like he's Zeus for all intents and purposes. He's the king of the Aesir. So like,
Yeah.
I feel like he could have gotten that spear out of the wall.
Yeah. But
um,
carry on real quick. I need to take care of something. So just so it's with the hunt with Atreus is the next thing.
okay. Um, so well, back to the whole like tier twist thing, because I feel like that moment should be talked about a little bit more. Um, I think there was I don't know. I don't really like the little breadcrumbs of like, oh, if you looked into his cell, you would see like raven feathers like in there. Like those little clues or hints or whatever is just is whatever to me. But I do like the ones of like when you initially find out Groa's prophecy and you kind of see that that facade that Odin is putting up as Tyr kind of break a little bit. Like you actually see some emotion coming out of it as he's like reading and learning that like the prophecy that he's been working off of all these years has been a lie. That Groa lied to him, you know? Um so I really like that as like a little like hint to that Tyr may not actually be Tyr in the first place. Um and then the other part is the way that both Tyr and Odin keep talking about peace, right? So that was really, really cool having that connection there. Um, having turned or trying to turn Loki against his father, even like that scene when they're at the dinner table and very smartly he's like, "Here you go, a meal fit for a champion," right? Like very deliberately, he knows what he's doing with that word, right? And that kicked off like literally a whole argument between those two characters. Um, Yeah, so and then even just like moments where like I think when Kratos first brings up going to see the Norns with to Freya and like you see Tyr like walking out of the shadows and you see him just like completely silhouetted, and I think the only thing that you really see is like the glow of his eyes, right? And then he comes into the light. Just like little things like that I think are really, really cool. Um and then like also yeah, and then I think people also point out the fact that he got mad when the dwarves bring up Dropnir, that was a thing that they stole from Odin's possession, right? So there are these little moments where you see the mask slip off just a little bit, right? Where he does kind of like forget what he's doing. He lets a little bit of anger show. He lets a little bit of fear show. Um, he lets a little bit of that pettiness break through in terms of like um calling Freya Frigg, for instance, right? Um, so you do have all these little hints and things like that. Um, I'm just a little bit like I don't know if I feel like his plan was like really all that good at the end because I feel like if his plan was a successful one, then he would have walked out of there with the mask. I just still feel weird that like after all of that, after and the fact that he could have poisoned all of them too, he had plenty of time to do that. But yeah, I just feel weird about the fact that like
I
he had the
apologize.
mask.
I apologize. I had a dog emergency I had to
No,
tend
you're
to.
good. Just the fact that he had the mask in his possession and he didn't walk out of that he walked out of that moment with nothing. It just felt like a little anticlimactic. But yeah. So that's my thoughts on that whole scene. Macho, please continue.
Yeah, so we got the hunt with Atreus next, and again, it's we call back to what we said before about recalling lines from 2018, right? This is one of them where Atreus is obviously he feels guilty for the death of Brock and really feels it's his fault, right? Because the fact that he wanted to go find Tyr and they brought him back to Sindri's house, and that was like really like kind of their sort of base. It's it's a it's a moment of betrayal for Atreus that can really make or break you, and this is the part where it's breaking him. So Kratos just follows along and really kind of just goes along with his son because he obviously wants to look after him and everything. But this is where we get the part where Atreus is trying to run away from his problems and he's trying to hunt for deer. And then so that's when Kratos asks him, "Where are we going?" He's like, "In the direction of deer." It's just like one of those moments where just like, damn, okay. It's a line throwback at Kratos from the first game, but in a much different context now. That's layered by this really hurtful death and this close family that we kind of grew over these two games.
I
And
mean, that's something we didn't even talk about was Brock's death.
okay, I thought you touched over as I was going, but yeah, um, I kind of said my piece on this already. Like it's honestly, if you would have finished the entire game by the time you got to like the top moments, this would have been the one for me. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
for God,
Um,
because that reveal plus him getting stabbed, the look on Brock's face when he gets stabbed,
mhm.
and Sindri's reaction to it. Oh God, man, so heartbreaking, so heartbreaking.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I think it didn't hit me until Sindri's reaction. Yeah, that was the moment that really killed me. Um, just saying and like I know like you shouldn't take things that are said in grief as fact, but like when he was saying that like hey like you guys took my skills, you guys took my home, you guys took like everything from me, like my family and like I have nothing left now, you know? And
Yeah,
like yeah, it was a really well performed scene. We may need to do like a speed round because I gotta go soon.
yeah, no, I hear you. I hear.
So
I'm starting to get a little lightheaded. I just got some water. So.
yeah.
All right, so
Um,
I
so I
can.
mean, really, let's just go straight to the Gjallarhorn scene and then the final Ragnarok battle and the ending.
Yeah, yeah, let's do it. Okay, so the Gallahorn scene was our Avengers Assemble moment. I know you have a little bit of contention with this one because the fact that that room wasn't entirely filled and we kind of just had like a rousing motivational to war speech, um, that may or may not tickle your fancy, but at least for me personally, I love this entire scene just because it's we have more of a tight knit family now that we kind of grew, and as we know, Ragnarok is such a bigger game with its cast and everything else. So it really felt right that we had a call to arms scene with Kratos blowing the horn, and having the God of War theme in the background. It's so epic, and you see the realms just start to open up one by one in a nice rotational like camera scene there. So good. And then it ends off with them diving into Asgard as Ragnarok is asundering with
Even though I have problems with that scene,
mm-hmm.
it's still it's hard not to get chills from that scene because of the music. It's so damn good and like appropriately used.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also really quickly because I feel like we should definitely talk about this too. The last Faye flashback and like the night before Ragnarok, um, from Atreus, coming to deciding not to sleep in his own tent and coming to sleep with Atreus.
Oh yeah,
Um,
great stuff.
from that moment, and then just the final flashback with Faye, man, like it hits so well. It hits so damn well. Her just talking about like basically her last wish. Like this is where that conversation started. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you hearing Kratos being um, like if you essentially if you're like to leave me, like if you're to die and I'm still alive when you pass, like there is nothing left in this world for me to like. There's no reason for me to keep on living, essentially. Um, and then you hear Faye basically saying that like you will, if you open your heart, you will find that there is plenty in this world to still live for.
Yeah.
Is fantastic to hear, and that comes around obviously at the end of the game. The whole open your heart thing. Um, and then obviously the line that we all love is to grieve deeply is to have loved fully.
What a
Um,
line, dude.
yeah, great line. Um, yeah, and then the whole thing like the culmination of love is grief, that too. Um, and like yeah, again, just like and then them two like put like bringing their heads together and their foreheads touching, and then her theme playing in the background, and then like almost like her putting Kratos to bed with that
Yeah,
transition.
that's why I love these transitions. Yeah.
Yeah, really really cool stuff. But yeah, back to Galahorn. Just a fantastic scene. Like obviously, yeah, I do have my nitpicks about like just it would have been, it would have been. I feel like they could have taken it up, and they really could have taken it further with that scene. Um, and having people from the respective realms like coming through those portals, and then everyone together going through the Asgard gate, and then like just seeing an army just like rushing to the wall or whatever. Um, Regardless, it was still a really really cool scene. Um, so yes, we get to Asgard. Shit's hitting the fan.
But
Everyone's
real quick. I know we keep stopping, but real quick, the Valkyries fight in
oh
what?
shit. Oh my god.
Yeah, this the music, the bear, the bear
uh,
transformation. Like how epic
s-
was that? Oh my god.
yeah, the spark of the world, which I do think it's Ginnungagap, which is the place that basically like the creation of like where like the place where creation started. So it's like where Niflheim and Muspelheim like meet.
Right. Yeah.
Um, I think it's also where Ymir was like birthed or whatever.
I
But
think
it's
so too. Yeah. Yeah.
just such a cool location. And then Surtur as well. Like I want to give him flowers because I really really enjoyed his character. I think I said this in one of our prior podcasts, but his line of like when he's talking to Atreus, and he's like Atreus is like talking, like trying to convince him to like join them in Ragnarok, and obviously Surtur does not want to because he doesn't want to put Sinmara in danger. Um, but also he's like, we're gonna die, so I don't want to do it. Um, but yeah, and Atreus is like, but come on, like the prophecy says that you need to be, and then Surtur just like cuts him off, and he's like, have you ever been in love? And he's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's pretty good. I'm like, yeah, I really, really love Surtur in this, because again, it's just like one of those depictions of a character that you think you know what they're gonna be like, and Ragnarok just takes them in a completely different direction, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah. For sure.
Um,
For sure.
yeah, so the final battle in Ragnarok, everyone's here. Again, Bear McCreary's song, the song just titled Ragnarok, playing in the background. I really, really, really love that song. Um, we breached the wall with the help of Sindri.
Who we
Sindri,
see
really important.
completely disheveled and just downtrodden. He's not the Cinderine now.
Yeah, really important detail is that he decided not to bring anyone from Svartalfheim, saying that his people have suffered enough, so he's the only one from Svartalfheim to actually show up. Um, a lot of things are happening in the background, right? Angrboda brings Fenrir. Uh, I believe Skolgahadi are here as well. We obviously see Jormungandr in the background with Thor.
Yeah, just
Um,
duking it out. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I already said it before that I would have loved to have seen that like more up close and personal, but it was fine. Um, Thor actually sends Jormungandr back in time. which we were kind of waiting for because in 2018, remember Jormungandr said to Mimir that hey, Atreus actually looks kind of familiar, and
Yeah.
again, going back to an earlier point about Loki and chaos and how it was like a inadvertent chaos, for this version of Loki, but like as we know in traditional myth, Loki and Angrboda have multiple children together, and it's like while they don't have children together in this, Loki is still kind of responsible for like the creation of these things, right? So like Fenrir getting to the size that he is, to the Fenrir that we all know from the myths, Loki is responsible for that.
Yeah.
Even though it's not his kid. Jormungandr getting to the size that he is, or Jormungandr essentially existing, Loki is responsible for that, even though it's not his kid, right? So again, this idea of like taking traditional myth and like still making it like accurate to the myth, but not in the way that we expect it to be. Um, it's just really cool stuff. So
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
we breached the wall, with Thrud and Atreus there. This is, all comes off the heels of the conversation with Atreus while he's seeing the Midgardians like die on the front lines. Um, and Kratos like seeing this, and you know this is when he kind of like subverts his archetype of being just this merciless god who doesn't care for the well-being of others, and he actually goes against that and is actually like, no son, you need to open your heart to what's happening right now. I was wrong, you know.
What?
Really
Yeah.
love that moment.
Another. Yeah. Another great moment between the two.
Yeah. So we get to the other side of the wall, with
That I
Thrud.
would say that part genuinely made me cry more than the hell I've seen. Or the the Nilfheim scene. Excuse me. That just absolutely yeah, that rocked me, man. It's like, no, open your heart. Oh my god, so good. Every time I see it, I cry out. I know I'm a baby for this stuff, but it's so good. I love it.
The way Christopher Judge's voice broke when he was like in that scene, yeah, that was really good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, anyway, Thor comes to immediately to Kratos after sending Jormungandr back in time. Um, and then this is when we have our final fight with Thor, and I I think I think Odin's is a little bit better, but like I generally feel like both of these fights were kind of like, I feel like anticlimactic is like too strong of a word, but like I was expecting a lot more with this Thor fight. So like I was just kind of disappointed that like it just like, because the first fight against Thor, like it happens in like three separate arenas, and you're like flying through the air, you're slamming each other into the ground. You're having that moment where both the axe and the hammer like collide and shatter the ice, and it creates the frozen bolt of thunder and all that, and you know just the way that it's happening in multiple different places, right? And it's like this one in comparison, like it feels a little bit more restrained, even though Thor has more things in his move set. It's all just happening in that same arena too. Like
Yeah, I
I don't know,
think.
how'd you feel about this fight?
Yeah, I think it honestly for stuff like this, um, I feel like it really just comes down to the fact that they probably just didn't have enough time. Like I'd love to know what other ideas they had for this to make it a little more epic. That didn't make the cutting room floor. They just didn't have time to develop for, because God of War is known for having like these really huge scale, like epic sort of bosses. At least final bosses, and I feel like Ragnarok really did so well up until this point. Not to say I didn't like these fights. I really did like them, but yeah, I can agree with you that it just didn't feel as grandiose as like we're kind of used to with this series.
Yeah, like I mean, I was kind of kicking up this idea in my head, but like, how cool would it have been to get Jormungandr more involved? Like, how cool would it have been to actually get like them two fighting on the back of Jormungandr, right? Like
Yeah,
something like that. I don't know. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I expected a lot more from that fight and was kind of let down by it. But it was still fine. And then we kind of get that moment where after it's all said and done, the two of them kind of, even though they both recognize that they're both destroyers, I think Kratos kind of breaks through to him and tells him like, we could change, we could be better for our children.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of like talks Thor off the edge, and
That's a really
Odin
great
shows
scene
up.
too.
Yeah, for sure. Also the little quick time event of like the clash between like Thor coming down from like the sky and slamming his hammer into the axe, and the two of them like meeting, and then like like the ground underneath like Kratos' feet like shattering. Like it was really cool moment.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Um, yeah, we break through to Thor. He finally realizes like he needs to stand up for against his father, for if for anything for his family, because Othin does not have their best interests in heart.
Yeah, I love the line
So
he comes into where he's like, "Are you broken?" It's
yeah,
it's like, damn, dude, like like Thor's already feeling it from everything he's experiencing, sort of just the trauma being in this family, and then he comes in after being defeated by Kratos, trying to really reconcile with the guy, and then Odin comes out of nowhere and be like, "Dude, are you broken? You're trained to kill. That's what you do for me."
yeah, yeah. When I tell you to kill, you kill. You're not supposed to think.
Yeah,
Like yeah, things like that. Um, which again, like, and I mentioned this in a prior podcast that like this goes to show you exactly how he feels about his children is when he first shows up to Kratos' door and he says he doesn't he doesn't show any remorse for the fact that Kratos killed Baldur in a parental way. He's messed up that you killed Baldur because he was his best tracker. It's purely because of that. It's not because you killed one of my sons. No, you killed my best tracker. You know, I think that
yeah,
goes to show you just exactly how he views these people as not family, but just like merely what can they do for me, you know? Um,
yeah,
so yeah, and then we get the kind of thing that I was not expecting. Odin, no hesitation. The moment you're useless to him, you get disposed of like a piece of trash, dude. He immediately, no hesitation, plunges his spear through Thor's heart, kills him right in front of Thrud. Um, Odin immediately picks up Mjolnir.
and he blames him too. He blames Thor. He's like, "You made me do this."
Yeah, and then immediately when Thrud is right there, he's like, "Do you see what they made me do?"
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, this is such an asshole.
Yeah. He just like yeets Mjolnir into Thrud's chest. She goes flying, and then bam, boss fight against Odin.
Yeah,
Um,
this was this boss fight I really liked. I love the layers that they added. Literally the layers when Odin kind of broke the ground. He had to like go from one shift to another. When he's using his Bifrost powers, um, and the final confrontation then is like in his entire like laboratory, I guess we can call it, or his cave or whatever, his study. And
right.
yeah, so I really like this entire confrontation here, and I thought that was a lot of fun. Music, I mean, this is your song, man. All Father.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's I like the second phase a lot more than the first one. I think they're both pretty solid though. But yeah, just a really good, fun boss fight. Teaming up with both Atreus and Freya. Um,
Yeah, that
and
was dope.
then I like how they so, it's kind of similar to Baldur's final fight in the first game, where like he had like the both the fire and the ice form. You kind of have the same thing here, with Odin.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then anyway, so yeah, so you finally put him down, with a really cool quick time event where like Freya, Kratos, and Atreus are they're getting their licks in.
Yeah, there's he has a beat in his ass.
Um,
I
so
love
and
it.
then we get that final moment where Odin kind of like dies in Atreus's arm, and he kind of like takes his soul out and puts it into one of the giant marbles.
Yeah, and then real quick, what happens right after that?
Oh, Sindri destroys it.
Yeah, he literally comes off the screen out of nowhere after it was kind of like lovingly passed between Kratos, Atreus, and Freya. They're like, we Freya's like, I don't really need this kind of revenge in my life. I'm good. Kratos obviously has nothing to do with it. He passed off to Freya saying, you know, I robbed you of death once. I'm not going to do it again. The Atreus just not really kind of nonchalant about it. And Sindri comes out of nowhere, just smashes it with his hammer. Surprised the hell out of me.
I really like it was him. It wasn't Kratos who avenged Brock, even though we know how much Brock actually means there. I think Kratos described Brock in one of his journal entries as like acceptable company, and I feel like that means like, oh, this guy's my friend, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that it wasn't Atreus who killed him. It wasn't Freya. It wasn't Kratos. Like it was Sindri who ended up getting that revenge, for his brother, and we know that from all these characters, really, that revenge is you know like a one-way street. It's not fulfilling at all. Like Sindri got his revenge, and he is literally the same after. But yeah, I like it because like another one of my pet peeves in stories is like you don't kill the final villain just in general, and I was really scared that it was gonna be like, oh, we have Othin's you know soul trapped in this marble. Some theoretical future God of War game, you know, that marble is still laying around here. It gets in the wrong hands. Here comes Odin again. You know, so I'm glad that like the game was just like, no, like let's like cut the nonsense and let's like definitively say that Othin's gone. You know.
Yeah.
So there's
yeah.
no room. There's no room for interpretation. There's no messing around about it. Like he's done. You know. So I'm really glad that they did not go the other direction with that. So yeah, he's gone. There's a weird Freyr sacrifice in between all this after this that I really just didn't care for. I it's one of those things again where it felt like this is a thing that has to happen in mythology, so like it needs to happen in our game because Surtur actually does kill Freyr in the myths, I believe, and I don't know. It just felt like it came out of nowhere, and again, it's about a character that like I didn't really care for, so I was just like, all right, you know.
Yeah, you see Ingrid go with him apparently. So yeah.
I would no cap, Macho. I was more upset about Ingrid dying than Freyr.
Oh no.
Like I'm not gonna hold you, man. But that sword, I was attached to that sword, man.
You're like, oh no, Freya. What about the sword?
Yeah, for real. Yeah, and then we all kind of get out of Asgard. You know, some casualties here and there, but I think the main group is relatively okay. And then this is kind of where we get to the end of the game, right?
Yeah. So so after all that, we have Atreus waking up in what realm are they are in Midgard, right?
Midgard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get all the way back to like a new Jotnar shrine, and then this is where Kratos and Atreus have their final conversation before he heads out.
Yeah, and then we have the final letting go of Kratos for Atreus, and what an amazing end to honestly the entire duology here. I didn't know where it was going, so I'm really happy it ended up being this really central story about a father and a son, and more or less Ragnarok being about letting go, and also I thought it was really beautiful the way they did it. What was the line that Atreus stays but Loki goes or something like that? That Kratos said.
Yeah. Which I can't. I haven't decided yet if that's a little cheesy or not, but I think the sentiment is nice.
Man, give it to him, man. Kratos been through a lot of shit. Give it to him, man. He deserves his dad moment.
It's one of those lines where I'm like, okay, all right. Nonetheless, really good scene.
Yeah, I mean, for the last thing I want to touch on before you dive in here was the mural, the last panel.
Go ahead.
I bawled like a baby. It's because you see Kratos' face and the fact that he has some sort of chance, right? He has a path that he says of redemption, and it's something that we've been tackling with, and it's a theme for Kratos for so long. Like, can someone that had caused so much atrocity, caused so much chaos, be redeemed? And for him to kind of get sort of a solidified answer from this panel was really beautiful, and it wasn't definitive. It wasn't set in stone, but it was something to aspire to, and I think that's what he recognized, and that's really beautiful.
And like I think the beautiful thing is that they show you just enough of his face. They don't show you the whole thing, but like just enough for you to see his reaction. And I thought that was like really really well done. Is that
Hmm.
like you could kind of see like the shakiness of like his bottom lip, like his breathing too, and just like how wide his eye was too. Like looking
Yeah.
at this, I thought it was really really well done, and like that scene really really hit me too. Because yeah, this is something that he never thought imaginable or possible for him. This kind of redemption, right? And this is exactly the thing that that Othin was kind of like, I don't know, sort of teasing him about earlier in the game about in any of your lifetimes have you ever been worshipped or prayed to? And like the fact that now he's become a god who actually may be worthy of that. A thing that he probably has never known in his life. Um, the fact that he may actually be worthy of that now, I feel like it's just like this is why I'm so like okay with this franchise just being on ice, because I feel like that is the perfect, like, if you want to talk about like how Uncharted 4 was a perfect cap for Nathan Drake as a character,
Hmm.
like that is the logical conclusion for that character. I do not know how, and you shouldn't do anything more with that character, right? Like that story is done. I feel like for Kratos, this is like the perfect cap for this character, for a man who, where he started as someone who is irredeemable or like unredeemable or whatever, who is like absolutely not worthy of having statues built of him and being praised and all this stuff, to someone at the end of all these games is finally someone who is worthy of all those things. Like, where do you go from there? I feel like that is the perfect cap for this character.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. That's why I think it left more of the door open for Loki than more than anything else.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, so yeah, I think it was a really 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 great ending for the game, and for Freya and Kratos to go off together on kind of on a quest to sort of fix the realms or whatever's left of the realms that need to be fixed. Um, last little thing we can touch on before we get out of here, man. The funeral, Brock's funeral.
Yeah, yeah. This was the true end credits, and it's what I alluded to before about hearing blood in the snow, uh, in the credits, and just but this scene entirely was just so heartbreaking for Sindri's reaction to everything. He's so cold, and one thing you notice too, Atreus is not at that funeral, and I think that was intended because Sindri is just so hostile towards Atreus after everything that's happened.
Yeah.
So I think it was more out of respect than the fact that like, oh, Atreus didn't want to be there. No, I think he just wanted to give him his space because he deserves that. And then they kind of just part ways after that. Yeah. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was really really great. Like really really low key, as I think Brock probably would have liked. Um, and well, I don't know, maybe he would have liked people to be like drinking and having a blast at his funeral or stuff like that. But I don't know. I thought it was really great. And then of course the last line of like this riddle that you've kind of been like pondering about for like a good while up to that point. Um, Mimir couldn't crack it, Kratos couldn't crack it. Brock literally had these two guys like literally stumped for like a half of this game, and then for it to come all the way back and loop around at the literally the last line of the game, I thought was just like really really like just so well done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it was really beautiful. And the way that the game just like fades to black after that, which is like such a stark contrast to like, if you remember the second roll credits in God of War 2018, it was the Thor tease,
Yeah.
and then for this, it's just like it's so somber in comparison, right?
It's
Um,
bittersweet because you get the really happy ending beforehand with Kratos and Atreus. Things seem pretty all right, but then you realize that this family is not entirely whole.
yeah, yeah,
That there
um,
was consequences. So
yeah, for sure. Um, yeah. So, I mean, I guess that pretty much wraps it up then, man.
I think so. Did you do the end game stuff by any chance?
Not all of it. I'm still kind of going in there occasionally.
Okay. So for anybody, especially you, so that gets to the end game spots, we could talk about that some other time because there's a really couple cool reveals there. But other than that, yeah, I think that's really for the game. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on, or?
No, I'm good. I think we did a pretty thorough discussion on God of War Ragnarok, and I think really quickly. Do
Mm-hmm.
you like Ragnarok more than 2018?
Yes, and specifically because I know there's some people like 2018 more because it was more of a tighter story and that is more of a simple story, I guess I can say. Um, with Ragnarok, I thought same thing with Infinity War for me, where it brought everything together so well, and then you just had a lot of really interesting moments throughout. I liked the gameplay a lot better. A lot of the stuff that was in Ragnarok as far as a game, boss fights, enemy variety, level design, the puzzles, even if some characters answer them for you, I thought were just, to me, way better than 2018. On top of a really grand and epic story. So yeah, I liked it better.
Yeah. I'm definitely one of those people who would say that 2018 was, yeah, it was definitely a cleaner story because it was just like you had a lot less characters to work with. So naturally, in Ragnarok, they're juggling so many different characters and stories and personalities and um, you know, their characters' dislikes and what they like and what makes them tick and things like that. You're juggling so much in the air that it's like hard to keep track of, and it's naturally going to be a messier story because of that. Um, and it does get a little bit murky with just like there's some points where I'm just like, okay, do we really need to be doing this, or this feels a little bit disconnected from like the wider plot of the game, or even like the Jotnar shrines. I was like confused by like a little bit of that sometimes here and there, but like, um, I don't know, because there are some, admittedly, like I was going back to God of War 2018, like there are some slow bits in that game. There are some parts of that game that I don't really care for.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like, but I I don't know, cause like it's tough. It's something I feel like we do need to make a podcast about, or just have like a topic and just like really talk about like which one we like more for all three of us. Because right now I'm still undecided, man. Like the highs of Ragnarok are really, really high, just like they are in 2018, but they both have like their cons, their weak points, you know? So like I really would love to have that conversation with you guys at some point.
Yeah, I need to replay the first game because I only beat it once, I think. Um, yeah, I only beat it once. I need to really like trip back on that. But I just remember the things I remember the most are really the things that people talk about the most. So, I definitely would love to replay it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's gonna do it for us for our long-awaited God of War Ragnarok spoiler cast. Want to thank everyone who tuned in, whether it was live or after the fact. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Stay tuned for Sunday. Sunday is The Last of Us. Sundays, is that what we're dubbing it now? Um, basically, what were you gonna say?
No, no, no. Keep go for it.
Oh, okay. So yeah, basically Sundays, we will try our best to do a post-show breakdown and discussion of The Last of Us after it airs on HBO. So please look forward to our thoughts on episode 2 tomorrow.
I'm so
But yeah,
excited, dude.
yeah, this episode specifically, yeah, I'm excited for. But yeah, we're gonna get out of here, starting with intro or outros. Macho, you got anything going on?
Yeah, I mean, so far it's just a lot more Lost Judgments. Still undecided if I want to play another game before Hogwarts Legacy comes out or not. But I'm just gonna make my way through that. Maybe I'll just dive into Hitman or something. But yeah, mostly excited for Last of Us HBO tomorrow. Like you said, we're gonna do our best to do it right after the show times. But so far, tomorrow is pinned down. We're doing it after the show.
Yeah.
So stay tuned to that onto the channel. Hit that notification bell to let you know that we're going live, and also follow us on Twitter. so that we can shoot out that link and then you guys can join us for discussion. It's gonna be a lot of fun, man. This next episode is being directed by Neil Druckmann, so we're gonna cover a lot of bases from the previews. I'm really excited.
Yeah, me too. Me too. But yeah, as for me, just same old, same old. Playing more Neon White and Signalis, and that's pretty much it, man. I want to thank everyone for watching again, and we will see you guys soon. Peace out.